Chapter 191. There wasn't much to say about Silvermoon's mercenary group. It was just that Silvermoon had a skill that could strengthen everyone and increase their overall strength in a short period of time. Brother Yu was full of ambition and vowed to use appraisal to dig out what Silvermoon's equipment was. If I dig it out, how many points will I get? Brother Yu asked Sword Demon. Points for this too? Sword Demon was surprised and immediately felt that Brother Yu was working hard. In actual combat, his presence as a knight was the weakest among the six. Top experts like Sword Demon and Yutian Shinming didn't care if they had a knight's blessing to deal with ordinary players. They didn't even dare to bring a priest. Han family young master dared to shamelessly use his looks and talent to ask for points, but Brother Yu hadn't reached this level yet. Because of this shamelessness, Sword Demon finally nodded and said, "Then I'll give you 1 point." Brother Yu nodded in satisfaction. Gu Fei then flashed to Sword Demon's side. "Then how many points will I get for killing Silvermoon?" "This depends on the timing, the place, and the impact on the overall battle situation. You see." The sword ghost began to analyze the situation. Han family young master looked at Gu Fei sympathetically. "You asked a question you shouldn't have." Gu Fei was indeed in pain because Sword Demon spoke too many terms, and he basically didn't understand. Fortunately, 1 minute passed quickly. As soon as the cooldown was over, Gu Fei hurriedly flashed to the other side again. Han family young master stood up. "I'll go first. See you on the battlefield." The others were very surprised. Ever since this private room in Little Ray's bar became the child elite group's stronghold, the Han family young master spent the most time here, and he was always the last to leave. Even if he had something to do, he would do it slowly, as if he couldn't live without drinking that drop of wine. But what was going on today? Everyone looked at him in surprise. The Han family young master squinted at Gu Fei and said, "I'm going to throw up if he keeps flashing like this." Then he walked out with the cup in his hand. "Do we need to cover our faces for today's match with Silvermoon?" Brother Yu suddenly asked. "Oh, that despicable and shameless fellow indeed needs to be properly guarded against. Of course, I'm not afraid. I'm mainly talking about you guys," Gu Fei said. The experts immediately felt that Gu Fei was trampling on their pride as experts, and they all expressed that they wanted to fight to the death with Silvermoon in broad daylight. In the end, Brother Yu asked curiously, "From what you said, you seem to have a deep prejudice against Silvermoon? But if I remember correctly, it was you who went to Moonlit Night City and used him to kill him. Then you confronted one of the other guilds, and then caused the guilds in Moonlit Night City to revolt. To be honest, if it wasn't for you, he would be living a comfortable life in Moonlit Night City. He should hate you. Why does it look like you have a deep hatred for him?" "Do I have a deep hatred for him? Do I have a deep hatred for him? I just despise that fellow's character." Gu Fei spread his hands. "What's wrong with his character?" the others asked together. Only then did Gu Fei remember that he had seen Silvermoon's wretched appearance in prison. These people didn't know about it, and as Gu Fei expected, Yutian Shenming and Unscathed in Battle jumped up at the same time. Unscathed in Battle slapped the table. "This is too much. What a pitiful boundless Mang. Where is she right now? I think she needs a man with a broad chest to protect her from the wind and rain, and soothe her wounded heart." "Are you talking about the man you're talking about?" Gu Fei looked at him sideways. "If she needs it, I don't mind," Unscathed in Battle shamelessly said. Looking at Yutian Shenming, he seemed to be having an intense battle in his heart. The main reason was because he still had grape in his heart, and he was distracted for a moment. In terms of appearance, Boundless Mang was better, and Grape seemed to be interested in Yutian Shenming as well. This made Yutian Shenming feel bad about giving up. It was really hard to choose. Yutian Shenming sighed, picked up his glass, and drank it in one gulp. Such a bold way of drinking left everyone in a daze. They thought that the Han family young master had transmigrated back. The online world nowadays is really not pure. There are far more shameless people than those who are not. Sword Demon sighed. "I agree," Gu Fei said. Then with a whoosh he teleported again. So dizzy. I'm really dizzy. So watching you teleport after drinking really makes me feel dizzy and nauseous. No, I have to go out too," Yutian Shenming said as he got up. "It's about time. We can go out now." Brother Yu said after looking at the time. Thus, they got up together, lifted the curtain and walked out. After a few steps, they bumped into a group of people who were also leaving the tavern. When their eyes met, Gu Fei was startled at first, but the person in front of him reacted more quickly. He rushed over enthusiastically. Ah, Brother Qianli, what a coincidence to meet you here. Yes, what a coincidence. The other person was so enthusiastic that Gu Fei couldn't reject Qianli, so he could only respond indifferently. Brother Yu and the others behind him almost froze into statues. This was because the person in front of them was none other than Silvermoon. In the private room, Gu Fei was extremely disdainful. Why was Silvermoon so enthusiastic towards him when he came out? She even knew his name. Was there something fishy going on between the two of them? When Gu Fei told them about Silvermoon's shameless actions, he made it short, so he left out the interaction between the two of them in prison. Instead, he talked about how Silvermoon pushed the responsibility to the boundless Mang Mang and escaped without a trace. The two of them greeted each other, and Silvermoon's gaze swept over the other members of the child elite group. She asked, "Are these Brother Qianli's companions? You guys are also going to participate in the mercenary group competition, right?" Gu Fei smiled and nodded. What's even more coincidental is that our opponent is you. This caused Silvermoon to be startled. Child elite group? Kite mercenary group? That's us, Gu Fei said. You guys, aren't there a total of 6 people? Silvermoon counted again. Yes, Idiot Leader went first, Gu Fei said. Idiot Leader seemed to have won the favor of Yutian Shenming and the others. Everyone immediately nodded in agreement with Gu Fei's words. Oh, then we'll see you on the battlefield in a bit, Silvermoon said as she extended a hand towards Gu Fei. See you on the battlefield. Gu Fei didn't move. Silvermoon's expression was a bit awkward, but she just laughed it off. After saying, I'll go first, she withdrew her hand and left with her companions. How do you two know each other? Brother Yu and the others began to interrogate Gu Fei as they walked out of the tavern. Back in Moonlit Night City, Gu Fei had been masked the entire time, so no one knew his identity. Gu Fei had no choice but to tell them about his cellmate. So you're saying that he still doesn't know that you're 27,149? Brother Yu said. He didn't know at first, but if he's smart he might have already guessed it. Gu Fei said. Sword Demon nodded. I've met him face to face and exchanged blows with him. He should be able to recognize me. I've also shot an arrow at him. Yutian Shenming raised his hand. Good boy. Gu Fei rubbed his head. Scram. Yutian Shenming reached out to hit him, but Gu Fei once again used up 1 minute, and with a xiao he flashed away. As they spoke, they had already arrived outside the mercenary building. They entered the changing room through the teleportation circle, but they didn't see Han family young master's figure. That guy won't come, right? They muttered. At this time, there were only 5 minutes left before the start of the competition. Just as they were about to send a message to ask, a white light flashed and Han family young master appeared with 2 wine bottles. As soon as he entered the battlefield, he immediately paid attention to the number of opponents. Yo, only 10 people came. Han family young master said. Looks like they're very wary of kiting, Brother Yu said. Of course, with that kind of fighting style of his, he's most afraid of our big kiting. Even if he thought that too few people might be tricked by us, he still had to do it. Han family young master said. Why? To be honest, that kind of fighting style of his can be used once or twice as a surprise attack. Now all the players in the parallel world know that he's wearing golden armor all over the city. Only idiots will fight them head-on, Han family young master said. The mercenary groups that they killed along the way seem to be defeated by them head-on, Brother Yu said. That means they're all idiots, Han family young master said in disdain. The big kiting strategy is actually a surprise attack. It can't be used repeatedly. Silvermoon must have seen through this. He knows that we won't use this strategy repeatedly, but he still pretended to be afraid. Only 10 people came. In fact, he's showing weakness to us psychologically, and then baiting us to fight him head-on. The other mercenary groups that lost must have been tricked by his show of weakness. They thought that there's no problem in fighting him head-on. In the end, they underestimated that crazy skill of Silvermoon. Han family young master said. You're saying, Silvermoon actually already knew your intentions, he's playing along, pretending to be tricked, and then tricking us into fighting him head-on? The few of them were a little dizzy. Yes, Han family young master said. Let me say something. Sword Demon didn't speak easily, so everyone immediately looked at him seriously. Sword Demon, however, only looked at Han family young master. Aren't you thinking too much again? Last time in Moonlit Night City, you already thought too much. The facts can prove that Silvermoon's brain isn't as complicated as yours. Can't you simplify it a little? Why think so much? Just kill them. Only 10 people. Gu Fei said. See, this is a classic example of falling into a trap. Han family young master pointed at Gu Fei. That's different. Sword Demon shook his head. Because Qianli can indeed kill them. Chapter 192. I don't think Qianli was able to instantly kill Silvermoon back then, right? The few of them recalled. The incident at Moonlit Night City was the most hot-blooded and heroic experience they had in the parallel world, and it left a deep impression on them. Gu Fei nodded. Yes, he wasn't able to instantly kill him. Then what do we do? Yutian Shenming asked. Gu Fei glanced at him. Then we'll do it again. Yutian Shenming was speechless. Dang 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 dang, the system's 10-second countdown began. 10 seconds later, the 6th round of the mercenary group competition officially began. With a flash of white light, the few of them were sent into the map. There weren't many people on Silvermoon's side. Both sides had a total of 16 people, and the map was very small. Let's go to the high ground and see what's going on. Han family young master still had the same idea. The few of them climbed up a small hill not far from the spawn point and looked into the distance. They discovered that there seemed to be people moving around on the other side of the map. How many people are there? Han family young master pointed at the hill and asked Yutian Shenming. Yutian Shenming shaded his eyes and made a Monkey King pose. 10 people, not one less. He then yelled at Sword Demon, bonus points. Gu Fei felt a bit strange. He could only vaguely see the moving dots on the other side of the hill, and his eyesight had been protected well since he was young. Could it be that Yutian Shenming's eyesight was better than his? After asking, he found out that Yutian Shenming had a passive skill. He had already become an archer, and the level 40 passive skill Eagle Eye, with the help of the system god, could raise his eyesight to a whole new level. This skill was very popular among the short-sighted players, who had always felt inferior because of their eyesight. Ever since he had Eagle Eye, not only was his short-sightedness gone, but he also had the ability to use binoculars. Everyone stood straight and opened their eyes wide. Yutian, keep an eye on them. Let's see what they'll do first. Han family young master said. Yutian Shenming agreed and proudly went to pick up the binoculars. This continued until Yutian Shenming's face was covered in tears. The Han family young master's empty wine bottles were thrown all over the ground. Gu Fei's sword technique had reached the 5th set, and scathed in battle had begun to privately harass the 8th girl on his friend list. Sword Demon and brother, you were holding a small notebook of accumulated points and pointing at each other. They had gone from talking about serious matters to playing around with each other, but the little dot on the opposite hill had not changed at all. Han family young master touched his pocket, and found that there was no wine left. He stood up immediately and cursed, rascal. Everyone turned to look at him. Are these guys using this method to force others to fight with them? Han family young master pondered. Everyone thought that it was indeed the case. When two sides were fighting, if one side didn't move, wouldn't the other side take the initiative to fight? If both sides continue to waste time like this, how will the winner be decided after the battle ends? Yutian Shenming asked brother Yu. A delayed battle. If there is no winner, then it will be delayed until the winner is decided. Brother Yu said. Normally, after the mercenary battle, people will still have to participate in the guild battle. This guy, it seems like he's taking advantage of the fact that others aren't willing to drag it out with him, forcing others to take the initiative to attack him. Then of course he can only fight head-on. Han family young master analyzed. Are you thinking too much again? Sword Demon didn't even raise his head. I'm thinking too much. Yutian Shenming nodded. They've already started to move. Oh. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stood up to look at the mountaintop. After a while they didn't see much movement. Everyone looked towards Yutian Shenming. Yutian Shenming let out a long sigh. It seems like they're the same as us. They've been sitting for a long time and have nothing to do, so they got up and moved around. Everyone. Let's go. The sudden interruption made the experts lose interest in continuing what they were doing. They wanted to go up and fight Silvermoon and the others. Go. Han family young master stopped them. Huh. They thought he would calmly analyze the situation. I'm out of alcohol. Han family young master explained. Let's finish this quickly and go buy alcohol. What a drunkard. They sighed and went down the hill towards the opposite side of the map. Along the way, Yutian Shenming continued to monitor the other side's actions, but there were no abnormal movements. Stop. When they were halfway there, Han family young master waved his hand to stop them. What's wrong? They asked. Qianli, Yutian Sword Demon, you guys approach first. Wushang brother, you and I will hold the line. Han family young master said. What do you mean? They didn't know what Han family young master was trying to do. Especially Yutian Shenming. He was afraid that he would be sent out to die again. After using Silvermoon's skill, her movement speed also increased greatly. If the situation isn't right, with our speed, it'll be hard for us to escape. Han family young master said. So the 6 acted according to plan. Han family young master and the other 2 found a place nearby to observe. Gu Fei, Yutian Shenming, and Sword Demon approached first. When they reached the foot of the mountain, the 10 people on top of the mountain still didn't move. Yutian Shenming couldn't help but exclaim. This skill is so cool. I can even see their noses and eyes clearly. Can you 2 do it? Yutian Shenming said proudly to the 2. Let's see. At this time, they were already within the range of the archers, but the other side still didn't move. Yutian Shenming drew his bow and was ready to shoot. The other side suddenly made a move. The 10 of them suddenly gathered together, and the 3 warriors at the front dug into their pockets, each taking out a large shield and placing it in front of them. Then they lowered their bodies, and the 10 of them completely disappeared behind the shields. Heavy warriors. Sword Demon said. Heavy warriors were another branch of level 40 warriors, and they walked the path of high HP and high defense. The new skill at level 40 was the passive skill, Defense Mastery. Apart from increasing HP growth and additional defense, the other important function of this skill was to add shield mastery. Shields were also considered as weapons in the parallel world, but their attack power was extremely low. What they had was the most powerful defense. Even if a normal class wanted to use a shield, they wouldn't be able to reach the shield coefficient. Only heavy warriors after level 40, with the help of the passive skill Defense Mastery, could bring out the full power of the shield. Yutian Shenming's arrow was released at this time, and it didn't slow down at all, whistling as it rushed over. The arrow hit the shield, and actually made a loud clang sound. The shield didn't move at all, and the small arrow fell to the ground. In the distance, Han family young master also saw this scene and smiled slightly. So that's how it is. I thought they would have some way to prevent archers from shooting them from afar. So it turns out they're relying on the heavy warriors to prevent archers from shooting them from afar. In this case, only mages can go up. While Han family young master was muttering, Gu Fei and the others hadn't given up on trying. Yutian Shenming quickly moved to the side, trying to see if there was a chance to sneak an attack from the side. However, the enemy had already seen it. As soon as they saw Yutian Shenming move, they immediately followed his footsteps and changed direction. No matter how fast Yutian Shenming moved, he couldn't be faster than the enemy turning around. After moving around, there were only 3 big shields in front of him. Not even a strand of hair could be seen. Waste of time. Han family young master looked at Yutian Shenming's actions and snorted. After doing nothing for a long time, Yutian Shenming became dejected. He returned to Gu Fei's side and patted him. It's up to you now. That's it. Don't you guys know how to shoot in an arc? Gu Fei gestured with his hand. Yesterday, the archers that roamed the 4 seas had used this hand to shoot at him and Slender Waist dance in the trenches. He believed that Imperial Sky Divine Cry must have shot quite a few as well. That I can only use normal attacks. How much damage can a normal attack do to a warrior? Besides, I'm the only archer right now. Yu Tianshengming explained. Then watch me. Gu Fei unsheathed his sword. The three of them quickly moved forward and entered the sorcerer's attack range in the blink of an eye. Fire wheel from the sky. Surrender. Gu Fei raised his sword. The enemy warrior seemed to have heard Gu Fei's order, and immediately raised his shield above his head. The three of them were stunned. What is this? The shield is only a physical defense. It can't block magic attacks. Sword Demon was confused. As he spoke, the fire wheel ignited in the sky and fell. The three of them clearly saw that the moment it was about to fall on the shield, there seemed to be a layer of something like a halo floating on the surface of the shield, and the fire was naturally extinguished. The 10 people under the shield were still standing, but their faces were a little shocked. Obviously, Gu Fei's powerful magic damage had still hurt them. Not dead? That shield has magic defense? Han family young master who was far away was surprised. This is important information. I'll go and appraise it. Brother, you wanted to go over. Just let Sword Demon appraise it. Han family young master pulled him back. It has physical defense and magic defense. This kind of exquisite equipment is extremely rare. Now that there is such a shield, it's really too scary. A shield is the equipment with the most insane defense. Brother Yu analyzed with his rich knowledge. No wonder there are only 10 people participating in the battle. Han family young master suddenly understood. I always thought that with this kind of fighting style, wouldn't it be better to have 40 people squatting at the top of the hill? So they have other tricks up their sleeves. This shield must be these 3 sides, and protecting 10 people is already their limit. Long-range archers and mages can't do anything to them. In this case, they can only fight in close combat? Let Yutian and Qianli attack together. Then they can only focus on one side, right? Brother Yu was saying this when Gu Fei and Yu Tianshengming had already done so. One of them cast spells, and the other shot arrows. As a result, Yu Tianshengming's face was full of tears, because the other side ignored the arrows he shot, and focused on defending against Gu Fei's spells. Yu Tianshengming's self-esteem as a master was trampled again. Comparisons are odious. Sword Demon comforted him. Chapter 193. Gu Fei's spell attack killed countless people in a second, and the damage was indeed terrifying. Professions with low HP simply couldn't withstand his attack. However, at this time, the person holding the 3 shields was the heaviest armored warrior in the parallel world. This group of guys chose to add points to the extreme physique, and their original HP was terrifying. At this time, with such a shield with magic defense, it was not surprising that Gu Fei couldn't kill them in a second. As for the other 7, they were currently hiding under their shields. When the heavenly flaming wheel's attack landed on the shields, the system would naturally calculate the damage with the owner of the shields. The 7 of them, on the other hand, would be completely unharmed. At this time, the experienced Sword Demon had already finished appraising the 3 guys holding the shields. Too abnormal. Sword Demon lost his calm. Spirit Prison Shield, high physical and magic defense. In addition, it also absorbs 50% physical damage and magic damage, increases physical and magic defense by 30%, and adds 20 points to physique. Fuck. Such abnormal equipment. And they actually have 3 of the same? Light Shield is only this defense, including the whole body, no matter how strong the attack is. Isn't it like a toy? Yu Tianshengming was also shocked. With the equipment of these 3 people, Yu Tianshengming's strongest skill, Snipe, was already useless. I can still play a bit of a role, at least my backstab and sap are used from behind, and I can avoid his shield. Sword Demon forced a smile, but his smile was full of helplessness. The opponents were almost hugging each other, and there were still people behind the 3 of them. How could Sword Demon get a chance to sneak attack from behind? Looks like I can only rely on me. Gu Fei took a few steps forward and raised his sword. 1,000 flames of the blazing tree rise. Unfortunately, Gu Fei didn't add points to intelligence or spirit, so this spell was always a bit slow. Experienced experts could roughly determine what spell it was just by looking at the direction of the mage's finger. Not to mention that Gu Fei's chanting voice was quite loud, with a hint of "let's see what you guys can do." When the wheel of fire fell from the sky, you raised your shields to the sky. Now, with the 1,000 layers of flames of the fiery tree, are you going to step on your shields to the ground? That was what Gu Fei thought, so he did the same thing. 3 of the heavy armored warriors nimbly pressed the phantom imprisoning shield onto the ground, while the other 7 jumped onto the shield. Only then did Gu Fei's slow spell soar and ignite. The 10 of them seemed to be in the middle of the flames, but they were as calm and unruffled as Guanyin sitting on a lotus. That works too. Gu Fei burst into tears. The speed at which you cast this spell is really... The Sword Demon and Yutian Shenming were also speechless. Frankly speaking, the other party's extremely constructive method seemed to be aimed at Gu Fei. The 7 of them moved aside and pressed their shields to the ground before jumping up again. What a complicated process. If it wasn't for a mage like Gu Fei, it would have been too late. Wait for me to blast them with 2 spells, Gu Fei said as he took out a fruit. For major spells, this was Gu Fei's current level of magic power, and he had already used 3 just now. No need to try, the Sword Demon said. To be honest, your spells are too slow to cast. It's not difficult to dodge them. I think they're just standing there on purpose to test your damage. Just as the Sword Demon said, after the 3 spells, the 3 heavy armored warriors erected the phantom imprisoning shield in front of them again. A small door opened between the 2 shields, and Silvermoon stood out with a smile. Brother Qianli, your spell damage is really terrifying. Gu Fei squeezed out a smile. He was eating an apple and had no time to talk. Where are the 3 brothers from your group? Aren't they coming over? Silvermoon looked at the Han family young master, and the other 2 who hadn't come over. Gu Fei was still eating his apple and didn't speak, so Yutian Shenming answered. Against you guys, do I need to go all out? So Gu Fei and the Sword Demon turned their heads at the same time, and looked at Yutian Shenming with burning eyes. That's just polite words, Yutian Shenming said embarrassedly. You've said what I'm thinking. Gu Fei finally swallowed his apple. There's no need to go all out. I alone am enough. As soon as he said this, the Sword Demon's burning eyes turned to Gu Fei. In his mind, Gu Fei wasn't such an arrogant and ignorant person. Sword Demon felt that this 10-man group was quite tricky to deal with. Just the 3 heavy armored warriors alone weren't easy to deal with, not to mention that the other side still had that extremely powerful skill of Silvermoon that hadn't been used yet. Yutian Shenming also opened his mouth wide. What do you want to do? A little closer. Gu Fei was about to step forward, but he was pulled back by the Sword Demon. Do you want to teleport into their formation? That's useless. You don't have the ability to kill them instantly. They can squeeze you with their strength. No matter how good your skills are, there's no room for you to use them. The question raised by the Sword Ghost was a very realistic PK problem in the parallel world, the MMORPG. If you wanted to fight one against many, killing in an instant was an essential ability. If you couldn't kill them instantly, then the other side was very likely to come up and squeeze you. At that time, you wouldn't be able to stretch your hands and feet. How could you fight? When Gu Fei faced the Yunmu Guild alone, the Uncheng Mutsu had hesitated to use this method. Don't worry, I'm not that stupid. Gu Fei smiled and patted the Sword Demon. When necessary, you 2 support me. After Gu Fei finished speaking, he walked toward the 10 people alone. The Han family young master, who had been watching from afar, couldn't help but be startled. He said to Brother Yu beside him, Is this guy crazy again? Is he going to fight one-on-one? Probably, Brother Yu replied in a daze. Silvermoon and the other 10 people were also very surprised by Gu Fei's actions. Seeing him walk forward alone step by step, they couldn't figure out Gu Fei's intentions. What do we do, boss? Do we follow the original plan? Someone asked Silvermoon. Follow the original plan. Silvermoon clenched his teeth. This mage is too scary. As long as we eliminate him, the rest won't be too difficult to deal with. The other people nodded and made their preparations. They watched as Gu Fei slowly approached step by step. 20 meters, 15 meters, 10 meters. The atmosphere became more and more tense. However, Gu Fei suddenly stopped, and the situation became stagnant. What is he trying to do? The 10 people were a little nervous. Although he had the spirit-imprisoning shield to protect him, Gu Fei's magic damage was on the same level as the shield. It was actually at an abnormal level. Abnormal met abnormal. The non-abnormal who didn't have the spirit-imprisoning shield in their hands couldn't help but feel nervous. Subconsciously, the 7 people squeezed closer to the 3 heavy-armored warriors. Gu Fei actually didn't have anything special to do. The main thing was that he had received a message, so he stopped to reply. "What are your plans?" asked the Han family young master. "I'll act according to the situation." Gu Fei replied. "Even if I die, I'll kill 3 to 5 of them before I die," said the Han family young master. "I'll try my best," Gu Fei replied. He continued forward, and in the blink of an eye, he was already 5 meters away. Gu Fei could already clearly see Silvermoon's shameless face, and he also noticed the nervous expressions on the others' faces. Gu Fei's footsteps slowed even more, and the tension on the other side's faces intensified. Even now, they still couldn't figure out Gu Fei's intentions. As a mage, wasn't getting closer and closer to him courting death? For meters, 3 meters, Gu Fei was still walking forward, but Silvermoon couldn't hold back anymore. She suddenly reached into her pocket, took out an item and waved it. Charge! The order was clearly charge, but the others all shrunk behind their shields, and they couldn't be seen. Gu Fei was puzzled as to what kind of counterintuitive order this was, but suddenly, a golden light flashed in the enemy's formation. Silvermoon's area of effect skill had already been cast. Then with a whoosh, the 3 shields suddenly crashed towards Gu Fei like a wall. There were gaps between the shields, and a 2-handed greatsword that warriors loved to use stretched out from within. So it was charge. Gu Fei had an epiphany. Because the others had all hidden behind their shields, Gu Fei couldn't see their movements, and he lost his judgment. At this time, with the help of Silvermoon's king's command, the other side's charge was fiercer than any warrior's charge that Gu Fei had ever seen. Moreover, the other side had 3 shields and 2 swords, and they were 5 people in a row. No matter how fast their reactions and speed were, it was impossible to dodge this charge, even if it was slender waist dance. In the entire game, perhaps only one person could dodge it, and that was Gu Fei. And it had to be Gu Fei after last night, because after last night, Gu Fei had the fastest movement skill, teleportation. Almost the instant the other side's sword and shield collided with Gu Fei's teleportation successfully activated, and with a whoosh he was teleported away. The other side had been using charge from behind their shields, and didn't know that Gu Fei was already gone. Behind them, the people who hadn't charged with them, suddenly saw Gu Fei appear in front of them. Silvermoon was holding his king's sword, and the brilliant golden light that radiated from the sword illuminated everyone except Gu Fei. At the same time, there were 4 other people besides Silvermoon who saw Gu Fei appear. 2 paladins, 1 warrior and 1 priest. They either didn't have the charge skill, or they didn't activate it. At this time, they were all running behind the 5 people who had rushed out. Suddenly, the air in front of them seemed to shatter, and when it returned to normal, Gu Fei had already appeared in front of them. They were still in shock, but Gu Fei had already slashed out with his sword. Dual flame flash flash. A dark purple sword light and a fiery red dual flame flash swept past the 3 people in front of him. Silvermoon and his 2 paladin brothers. Under the effects of King's command, everyone's stats received a huge boost. However, they still couldn't withstand Gu Fei's dual flame flash, which was a combination of physical and magical attacks. Silvermoon's 2 brothers were killed on the spot, and only he was still alive. Silvermoon's equipment wasn't bad, and his magic defense was quite high. This was the case when he was level 30, and now that he was level 40, his equipment was even better. As for Gu Fei, apart from the fact that his dual flame flash had greatly increased his proficiency, he discovered that he could use it with his sword to simultaneously deal damage from both physical and magic attacks. His improvement wasn't as significant as Silvermoon's. Just like that day in Moonlit Night City, Gu Fei still wasn't able to instantly kill Silvermoon. Chapter 194. Dual Flame Flash also had a cooldown period, so Gu Fei couldn't immediately use a second slash. He casually used his sword to poke at Silvermoon. but the cleric's healing spell had already arrived. Silvermoon was still holding his gold-ranked sword and standing firmly. At the same time, the warrior behind him charged at Gu Fei. Gu Fei was already prepared and dodged to the side. The warrior had used the same trick that Unscathed in Battle had used before, abruptly canceling his charge and changing it to a whirlwind slash. It was the same strategy, but this warrior was far inferior to Unscathed in Battle. His attack speed wasn't slow, and with Silvermoon's King's command supporting him, he was probably even better than Unscathed in Battle. What was slow was the tempo. The timing of the switch from charge to whirlwind slash was far inferior to Unscathed in Battle's. Such an opening gave Gu Fei the opportunity to deal with it calmly. He swung his sword to block the opponent's spinning sword. Borrowing the momentum of the opponent's spinning sword, Gu Fei's feet stepped on the ground at the right time, and he quickly floated away. The opponent's offhand sword barely brushed past the corner of Gu Fei's shirt. This whirlwind slash was successfully dodged by Gu Fei. The 5 warriors who had used charge in a row had already finished casting their skills. When they looked back, they found that Gu Fei had created a mess behind them. They didn't know what had happened, but they saw Silvermoon wave his hand, urging them to quickly attack Gu Fei. Gu Fei laughed and rushed towards the 5 of them. The 3 warriors with shields raised high were the most confident on the field. They raised their shields and charged towards Gu Fei. Of course, Gu Fei knew that with their high defense, there was no point in slashing at the shields. He immediately circled to the side in an attempt to get behind them. This scene was a bit similar to when Yutian Shenming was looking for an opportunity to shoot. Circling around was not as fast as turning around. Gu Fei ran in a C shape, but he still saw 3 shields facing him. The 3 warriors revealed proud smiles and boldly took the initiative to charge at Gu Fei. Gu Fei's lips curled into a smile. He pointed his finger forward and quickly chanted a line. Almost at the same time, Silvermoon warned the 3. "Behind you." "Xiao." Gu Fei disappeared and reappeared. He didn't hesitate to turn around and slash with his sword. Dual flame flash flash. Dang. The sword hit the shield. Silvermoon's warning just now was very timely, and at the same time, it showed the tacit understanding between him and his 3 companions. Upon hearing Silvermoon's reminder, the 3 of them did not ask for any reason. Without any hesitation, they immediately took precautions behind them. Turning around, one of the heavy soldiers placed his shield horizontally behind his back. Just as Gu Fei was about to teleport over, his sword chopped down on the shield. So it really is teleportation? Silvermoon's eyes were still a little confused as he muttered to himself. When Gu Fei's sword hit the shield, he praised his opponent's reaction. Just as he was about to circle to the side and attack again, he saw a large shield on the left swing towards him like a door. He hurriedly dodged to the right, but he hit a hard object. Turning his head, he saw another large shield. At the same time, a 3rd shield was pushed towards him from the front. Gu Fei hurriedly retreated, but in the end he let out an ouch. Gu Fei's retreat was already considered fast, but he couldn't keep up with his opponent's push. With the 2 shields sandwiched, Gu Fei's body was only able to move half a step away. The remaining half was firmly stuck between the 2 shields. "You can do this." Gu Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He struggled with all his might, but he still couldn't escape. In terms of strength, the difference between them was too great. "Hurry up." Silvermoon hurriedly called out in joy. Without needing his order, the other 3 warriors had already raised their swords and rushed towards Gu Fei, who couldn't escape. But they still couldn't be faster than Yutian Shenming's arrows. Yutian Shenming and Sword Demon had been constantly paying attention to the situation on the battlefield. After Gu Fei messed up the opponent's formation, the 2 were already looking for a good opportunity to attack. Yutian Shenming's arrows were already set up. Seeing this situation, he immediately released a sniper shot, hitting the back of one of the heavy warriors who was sandwiched between Gu Fei's legs. Shields had defensive attributes that far surpassed all other equipment. Therefore, there were some limitations to its use. In contrast, if you were wearing a hat with defensive properties, even if the opponent's attack landed on you, the defensive properties of the hat would still be calculated. But shields weren't like this. Their attributes were somewhat similar to the attack power of weapons. They had to be in contact with the opponent for their data to be effective. In other words, if the attack didn't land on the shield, the effects of the shield would be ignored. Without the abnormal attributes of the spirit imprisoning shield, this heavy warrior only had a normal high defense. Against a high damage shooter like Yutian Shinming, the attack power of this sniper shot was not to be underestimated. What was worse was that Yutian Shinming followed up with 2 consecutive arrows and a powerful arrow. With his back exposed to Yutian Shinming, it was only a matter of time before he died. The priests rushed over to rescue him, and the warriors quickly ran over to kill Gu Fei. But the fastest was still Yutian Shinming's arrows. However, the opponent only had 2 heavy warriors sandwiched between Gu Fei. They still had a 3rd heavy warrior. At this moment, the person whose back had been hit by Yutian Shinming's 3 arrows saw his life slipping away. The others seemed to be a little late, so he hurriedly shouted at the 3rd heavy warrior, "Why are you standing there like a fool? Come and help me block the arrows." But this person still stood there like a fool. His eyeballs kept rolling, and his expression was one of pain. He refused to move. "Why are you blocking the arrows?" A faint voice floated out from behind him. Sword Demon walked out slowly and stuffed a big stick back into his pocket. When his hand came out again, it was a dagger shining with blue light. Yutian Shinming was looking for a good opportunity to shoot from afar, but Sword Demon had already used stealth to get close to the battlefield. These people had placed all their attention on Gu Fei, neglecting these 2 ruthless characters. This was a fatal mistake they had made. The heavy warrior saw that the number 3 warrior had been knocked out by Sword Demon's sap. His back was now exposed to Yutian Shinming and Sword Demon, and the other people rushing over to help would be half a beat slower. If he died like this, it would be meaningless. So he made a prompt decision and let go of Gu Fei, running to the side and using his shield to cover himself. "He has low HP, quickly finish him off," the sword ghost shouted as he dashed to his left. Gu Fei, who had just escaped, understood and dashed to his right. The poor warrior didn't know whether to block left or right with his shield. After thinking for a while, Gu Fei's magic damage was more terrifying, so he immediately turned his shield in Gu Fei's direction. Sword Demon mercilessly stabbed out with backstab, but Gu Fei didn't stop facing the opponent's big shield. He stubbornly released a double flame flash on the opponent's big shield. And when this guy turned left or right, he didn't even consider the marksman Yutian Shinming in the distance. Yutian Shinming was sad and angry, but he also released an arrow. It was because Gu Fei's magic damage was too terrifying, so these people temporarily treated Sword Demon and Yutian Shinming as people in front of them. In fact, Sword Demon and Yutian Shinming were also quite top-notch experts. When people of the same level and class were pulled together, the damage of these 2 people was definitely in the upper class. You could only say that their attacks weren't at an abnormal level, but they were definitely not ordinary either. Ignoring these 2 people's fatal mistakes would eventually lead to their deaths. Under the 3-pronged attack, the heavy warrior who had some HP from Yutian Shinming's shots couldn't take it anymore. A white light suddenly appeared, and he was the first to move forward with his shield. At this time, the opponent's reinforcements had just arrived. Gu Fei and Sword Demon knew when to stop and quickly retreated to the side. Sword Demon knew that he didn't have the strength to fight against these people alone, while Gu Fei had used up his mana again. In terms of running, these people were far from being a match for Gu Fei and Sword Demon. The 2 of them ran out of the opponent's formation and came to Yutian Shinming's side. In the distance, the Han family young master saw everything clearly and couldn't help but smile. "Well done, we've already won." Silvermoon's face was miserable at this time, because the current situation could be said to be extremely disadvantageous to them. Gu Fei's unexpected teleportation had instantly eliminated the 2 of them. After that, the 3 heavy soldiers weren't able to trap him. Instead, they had lost another person. At this time, the child elite group was in the lead. The conditions for kiting could be said to have been met. Silvermoon's team was very afraid of this tactic, because they were a team without speed. Compared to Gu Fei, Yutian Shinming and Sword Demon, they were like rabbits and tortoises. Even the Han family young master's team of 3 was about the same speed as the Silvermoon team. Even if he had the king's sword to increase his attributes, it was a pity that the skill's duration was very short. Every second consumed 4% of his mana, which meant that he could only use it for 25 seconds at most. With this amount of time, it was impossible for him to catch up to those 3 players. Boss, what do we do? At this time, Gu Fei was eating fruits to replenish his mana. He, Sword Demon, and Yu Tianxinming were happily enjoying the looks of the remaining people at the top. It seemed like they had no intention of challenging them again. The others also realized the seriousness of the problem, and all asked their boss for help. Silvermoon widened her eyes and looked around. Gu Fei and the other 2 were all speed types. There was no need to think about catching them. Silvermoon ordered her subordinates to unite, and prepared to advance towards the other 3. In the end, they had only taken 2 steps when the 3 turned around and ran. Sigh. The last bit of hope was shattered. If the other party continued to run around like this, there was nothing Silvermoon could do. Although the map was small, Silvermoon and the others didn't have many people. They couldn't compress space or surround them. If they wanted to find their opponents, that was the only way. But at this time... Chapter 195. The Han family young master, and the others only ran for a few steps before they stopped as well when they saw that Silvermoon and the others had stopped moving. Silvermoon's sigh did not escape Gu Fei and the others' eyes. Gu Fei did not want to talk to Silvermoon, and Sword Demon was not interested in arguing with him. Yu Tianxinming was the only one who was excited. He winked at Silvermoon and said, "Brother Silvermoon, is there a need for us to continue fighting? Why don't you guys kill yourselves so that we don't have to waste more time?" "Brat, what are you talking about?" Although the situation was very unfavorable, Silvermoon's companions were not willing to be ridiculed. After hearing Yu Tianxinming's words, they immediately retorted. Silvermoon, on the other hand, did not seem to take it to heart and continued to rack his brains for a solution. Yu Tianxinming had a wretched look on his face as he started a war of words with his companions alone. Gu Fei continued to nibble on his fruit, while the Sword Demon was discussing the situation with the Han family young master, Brother Yu, and the others. Silvermoon held the golden one-handed sword in his hand. The Sword Demon had already used appraisal on it several times, but the sword's data did not appear. This could only mean that the sword's level was relatively high. Just like Gu Fei's Night Streamer, it could withstand the appraisal of current players without being exposed. "I'll give it a try." Brother Yu had a fluke mentality and refused to give up. Brother Yu was extremely passionate when it came to uncovering secrets. After that, he walked towards the hill with the Han family young master and unscathed in battle. Silvermoon was puzzled when she saw that the 3 of them had suddenly stopped running and were closing in on her. But to him, this was still a good thing. So he pretended not to care too much and focused his attention on the war of words. At the same time, he reminded his companions in the mercenary channel to be ready for battle at any time. Once the 3 of them entered the range where they could take them down in one go, they would attack without hesitation. The Han family young master and the other 2 didn't walk too close. They just came to the side of Gu Fei and the other 2 and explained Brother Yu's intention. "Is your appraisal skill higher than mine?" The Sword Demon wanted to verify. "Maybe my character is better than yours." Brother Yu suddenly exuded the aura of an expert. In a field that did not involve actual combat, Brother Yu's aura of an expert was also quite sufficient. "I'm going." Brother Yu exuded the aura of a warrior who would never return. Appraisal art also had a distance requirement. Brother Yu was not as fast as Gu Fei and the others. If he walked too close, he might not be able to return alive. "Why are you so stubborn?" Someone persuaded Brother Yu not to take the risk. "It's a hobby," Brother Yu said with a smile. "We'll cover you," Gu Fei said. He understood these groups with special hobbies. The Han family young master said plainly, "Actually, it's not necessary. We're leading by 3 points now, so it's fine if one of us dies." Everyone was speechless. "Young master, you're right. Besides, I'm not of much help in the battle." Brother Yu said, "That won't do. We're partners." Yu Tianxinming shouted. After he shouted, he saw everyone's burning gaze on him. "Did I say anything wrong?" Yu Tianxinming stared at him. "You're right, but..." Gu Fei was halfway through his sentence. "But as a group of adults, Your words really shocked us. The Han family young master finished on behalf of Gu Fei. Even Brother Yu smiled. It's good to be young. He then turned around. Fuck. You make it sound like you're all very old. Yu Tianshunming was exasperated. Anyway, I'm not as young as you. Unscathed in Battle's face was full of vicissitudes. Fuck off. You're indeed very old. Yu Tianshunming pointed at Unscathed in Battle and shouted. Unscathed in Battle raised his eyebrows. Just as he raised his arm, Yu Tianshunming had already run far away. Gu Fei and Sword Demon spoke with their actions. The two of them followed behind Brother Yu, one on the left and the other on the right. Such a similar action was exchanged for a smile. The Han family young master looked at the two of them expressionlessly, but he didn't think much of it. There's no need for that. Brother Yu persuaded the two of them to retreat. I want to test my luck again, Sword Demon said. My appraisal skills also need to be practiced. I can't let go of any chance, Gu Fei said. Brother Yu finally didn't say anything else. The three of them looked at each other and smiled, then continued walking up the mountain. Silvermoon, who was at the top of the mountain, didn't relax her attention to the foot of the mountain. She couldn't hear the casual conversation of the people at the foot of the mountain, so when three people suddenly appeared and walked up the mountain, everyone at the top of the mountain was confused. According to their understanding, the child elite group only needed to stay far away from them to win this confrontation. This wasn't difficult at all. But now three of them suddenly took the initiative to approach them. What were they planning? Moreover, one of them was a knight. Silvermoon herself was a knight, so she knew very well that a knight wasn't a profession that could take charge of an area and decide the outcome of a battle. The doubts in her heart made her indecisive. For a moment, she didn't know whether to attack or defend. If it was said that Silvermoon had absolute confidence in their formation at the beginning, then after three of their people were eliminated, there wasn't much of this confidence left. The three of them got closer and closer. This time, compared to when Gu Fei had stepped up the mountain alone, everyone was even more alarmed. Shrink the formation. Pay attention to your back, Silvermoon suddenly said in a low voice. The remaining 7 people stood closely together. In front of their heads were heavy armored warriors with 2 large shields. Silvermoon and the priest were in the middle. Under Silvermoon's special arrangement, the other 3 warriors faced left, right and back. This was to prevent Gu Fei from teleporting. Regardless of whether Gu Fei's attack could be blocked, they could at least know where Gu Fei had moved to. Damn. Faced with this formation, Gu Fei and the other 2 cursed in unison. The 2 large shields were erected, and Silvermoon hid herself behind them. How could they appraise this? So the 3 moved to the side, and Silvermoon's formation followed them. The 2 large shields swayed in front of the 3, and Gu Fei was annoyed. Hey, tell Silvermoon to come out and talk. Gu Fei turned from passive to active. The 2 large shields seemed to be slightly exposed, but Silvermoon still didn't show himself. Instead, he called out loudly from behind the shields. Brother Qianli, what do you want me for? We need to discuss something, Gu Fei said. Speak. Show yourself first. Gu Fei said. Really? Then there's no need to say anything. The more Silvermoon listened, the more he didn't dare show himself. He felt that the other side must have prepared some powerful trap, and was ready to take care of him in one fell swoop. Gu Fei helplessly spread his hands towards Brother Yu and Sword Demon. There's no other way. Let's retreat. Brother Yu sighed. Why should we retreat? Gu Fei asked. He doesn't even show his head. How can we appraise him? Brother Yu said. If he doesn't show his head, then we'll create an opportunity for him to show his head, Gu Fei said firmly. How? Brother Yu asked. Kill everyone else. Gu Fei drew his sword. Don't be impulsive. Sword Demon and Brother Yu said in unison. The 2 heavy soldiers were responsible for monitoring the enemy's movements. At this time they also cried out to the people behind them. The mage has drawn his sword. Be careful in all 3 directions, Silvermoon hurriedly said. Teleport, move. Gu Fei was already chanting. He disappeared and reappeared. Gu Fei had already appeared behind the other side's formation, and with a backhand slash, The soldier suddenly saw Gu Fei appear in front of him with his back facing him. He thought he had the upper hand, but he didn't expect Gu Fei to turn around so quickly. What was fast rhythm? This was fast rhythm. Different movements were linked together in the most consistent and time-saving way. This was the true reason why Gu Fei's attack seemed so fast that it left people speechless. The soldier thought he could make the first move, but he was too slow. He could only swing his sword to block Gu Fei's attack. Gu Fei casually shook his sword, and the tip of the sword came stabbing out at an angle that normal people couldn't predict. The flames of dual flame flash filled the air. Both the physical and the magic were injured, and the warrior died instantly. At this moment, the other members of the opposing team didn't remain idle. They all turned around and launched their attacks at Gu Fei, especially the two heavy soldiers. Gnashing their teeth, they raised their shields and pounced towards Gu Fei. From the looks of it, they wanted to flatten Gu Fei on the spot. This move again. Gu Fei shouted. This time he didn't dodge or dodge. His left hand dug into his pocket and took out the flame baptism. He held it horizontally in front of him. This blade was longer than a person's width. The two shields were blocked by the blade, and Gu Fei was safe and sound. His left and right feet kicked at the two shields. His strength wasn't enough to kick them away, but he used the force to jump up. With a whoosh, he flew out from between the two shields and fell to the left. Turning in the air, Gu Fei raised his sword in his left hand and chopped down with his falling body. The sound of metal being cut rang out. Gu Fei's sword had split a heavy soldier from head to toe. He hadn't used any spells, and the ordinary physical attacks of the Night Streamer sword weren't much to a heavy soldier. However, the momentum and the sound were too frightening. Everyone subconsciously thought that the soldier had been cleaved in two by Gu Fei. It wasn't until this person turned his head in shock that everyone realized that his head was still intact. Dual flame flash flash. At this time, Gu Fei's dual flame flash's cooldown was over. He immediately slashed out. Not only did he slash the heavy soldier, he also slashed the other soldier who was about to attack Gu Fei. The heavy soldier withstood this attack, but the other soldier disappeared in an instant. Gu Fei's attack didn't just rely on the physical and magic damage of the Night Streak sword. In addition, the Night Streak sword also had a 10% critical damage attribute. He also had a few accessories that increased the probability of fire magic on his body. When all of these were activated, that was the limit of Gu Fei's damage. Chapter 196. Gu Fei's ultimate damage could only be displayed in close combat. This was because the fatal attribute and enchantment attack could only be triggered when the weapon directly hit the opponent. It was impossible to activate them when using spells such as Heavenly Fire Wheel. And right now, Gu Fei was lucky enough to trigger all of these attributes at the same time when he needed them to be activated. Dark Stream Sword's physical damage, magic damage, double flame flash's skill damage, 10% fatal damage, and additional fire damage. After calculating the damage, Gu Fei finally succeeded in killing this non-heavy armored warrior. This was a significant second. This was because although this warrior had not changed his profession, his balance had given him quite a bit of HP. Moreover, he knew that Gu Fei's spells were powerful, so he specially put on all the defensive magic equipment he had. Who would have thought that he would still not be able to block Gu Fei's sword? As his companions, Silvermoon and the others naturally knew his HP and defense, so the damage from Gu Fei's sword made them feel even more horrified. Through appraisal, they could see that Gu Fei was wearing accessories that increased the probability of fire magic, but Gu Fei's sword and clothes could not be appraised. Silvermoon, who had the king's sword, naturally knew what was going on. Just like his king's sword, Gu Fei's equipment was also at the forefront of the times. The current appraisal was not compatible with this high-end equipment, which led to this situation. What was so mysterious about this sword and clothes? This made Silvermoon and the others' hearts itch. In fact, when Brother Yu really wanted to find out the secret of Silvermoon's equipment, how could Silvermoon not have the same thoughts about Gu Fei? Moreover, his thoughts were even more intense. This was because at this time they were completely at a disadvantage. If they did not understand Gu Fei's equipment, they would always feel that they would die without knowing why. Silvermoon was now in front of Gu Fei. If he wanted to kill him, he could just reach out his hand. However, thinking that he still needed this guy to be appraised by Brother Yu, Gu Fei temporarily gave up on the idea of attacking him. Instead, he extended his sword towards another warrior from Silver Moon's gang. Silver Moon's lineup consisted of 6 warriors, 1 priest and 3 knights. Currently, Gu Fei had dealt with 2 knights, 1 heavy soldier and 2 non-heavy soldiers. Currently, the person that Gu Fei was attacking was not only the last non-heavy soldier in the Silver Moon lineup, but also the last person in their lineup with a high attack output. Although the 2 heavy soldiers also possessed ordinary soldiers' charge and whirlwind/skills, they were wielding shields and not weapons. Furthermore, they had added points to their physique and not strength. Thus, one could well imagine how much damage they could deal. Not good. Cover him with everything you have. Silvermoon had already realized the importance of this soldier when she was calculating the remaining members on her side. Seeing that Gu Fei was about to attack this person, she hurriedly shouted. At this moment, Gu Fei had already smashed down with his sword, hitting his opponent squarely in the center. However, due to Silvermoon's warning, the priest had already cast a healing spell on the warrior. Gu Fei's dual flame flash was still on cooldown. This time, it was just a normal attack, and with the help of a healing spell, it was as if he hadn't been hit at all. Silvermoon had already rushed over, stabbing her sword horizontally between the 2, protecting the warrior behind her. The other 2 heavy soldiers also turned around to protect the warrior. For a moment, Silvermoon's lineup surrounded the warrior as the core. Just as she was feeling satisfied with her momentary judgment, she saw Gu Fei turn around and run. In a few steps, he had already caught up to the priest. Dual flame flash dodge. Gu Fei slashed out with his sword. Most priests would show nervousness and panic when the enemy got close, but this one was quite calm. He had already seen that Gu Fei was very fast, and that running was impossible. When Gu Fei's sword slashed down, he hurriedly cast a healing spell on himself. Priests had an advantage in Constitution. Priests at level 40 who focused on Constitution could resist Gu Fei's attack, but this one wasn't so lucky. What he was facing wasn't the simplest attack from Gu Fei. Just as Gu Fei rushed over, a yellow light was added to his body. This was a blessing from Knight Brother Yu. Blessing of Wisdom. Blessing of Wisdom raised Gu Fei's magic damage to another level. At the same time, a figure flashed behind the priest. Sword Demon also stabbed out with backstab, and his body glowed red. That was the blessing of power from Brother Yu. Under the pincer attack, although the priest cast a healing spell on himself, he couldn't use it. His HP was already at the bottom. Is this a diversion? Silvermoon's hands and feet were cold. He looked at the warrior behind him, who was firmly protected by him and the 2 heavy soldiers, and his heart was filled with regret. Gu Fei was stunned, and then smiled. It's not that deep. Then, Silvermoon didn't understand. I only cut him because he was the closest to me. Gu Fei pointed to the warrior who was protected by Silvermoon and said, if it were anyone else in his position just now, I would have cut them. Silvermoon spat out a mouthful of blood. He was really too nervous, and he was too worried about Gu Fei's magic damage. When people were nervous, it was easy for them to make mistakes. At this time, a careless mistake directly caused the death of the priest. Without the priest, it meant that their side was in a situation where their HP was fluctuating. If this continued, they would definitely lose. And the Han family young master, and the other 2 who were watching the battle from afar obviously saw that their side had a great advantage. There was no need to use any big kiting tactics, and it shouldn't be a big problem to fight head-on against these 4 people. While talking, the 3 people had already walked over, but Gu Fei and the other 2 retreated at this time. The reason was, of course, that Gu Fei wanted to eat fruit again. Your magic power. TSK TSK TSK. The few people sighed in unison. Gu Fei didn't care about it and pointed to Silvermoon, who was very exposed, and said to Brother Yu, hurry up and appraise him. I've already appraised him. I really can't appraise him. Brother Yu shook his head and sighed. Is this thing also based on probability? Gu Fei asked. This may be. The officials didn't clearly announce the information in this area, so no one could say for sure. Kill everyone else, leave Silvermoon, and appraise him a few hundred times. Maybe he will come out. Gu Fei suggested. Is this how you torture him? Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Isn't this what Brother Yu needs? Gu Fei looked at Brother Yu. Brother Yu wiped his sweat. Let's deal with him first. Han family young master waved his hand. Wait for my magic power to recover. Gu Fei hurriedly said. Alright, you've already killed a few. Are you going to let us earn points? The few people grumbled unhappily as they rubbed their palms together. They had no intention of waiting for Gu Fei at all. In a face-to-face confrontation, there was no craftiness in tactics. It was basically a matter of individual ability and teamwork. In Silvermoon's group of 4, the 3 warriors formed a triangle with their backs to each other. Silvermoon was in the middle, and he quickly blessed the 3 of them. That was all he could do at the moment. On the Child Elite group side, everyone did their jobs. Yutian Shenming shot arrows from afar, unscathed in battle, and Sword Demon closed in, looking for opportunities. Brother Yu blessed everyone. And Han family young master also pulled out his staff, paying attention to the 2 who closed in. Silvermoon and the others didn't have long-range attacks, so those who didn't close in were in no danger at all. Just as unscathed in battle and Sword Demon approached, a golden light suddenly flashed. The 3 warriors had already activated charge and attacked the 2. But the 2 seemed to be prepared. Sword Demon used quick step to the side, while unscathed in battle puffed out his chest to meet the opponent's heavy shield. This collision looked very fierce, but the damage displayed in the game was actually very ordinary. For unscathed in battle, this warrior profession didn't have low defense. It wasn't considered much. Unscathed in battle seemed to receive this collision on purpose. After the collision, he didn't counterattack, but instead turned his head and shouted out a number. Han family young master smiled slightly and gestured to Brother Yu. Brother Yu quickly understood and combined the appraised data of the heavy warrior's equipment and began to calculate. Heavy warriors didn't use weapons, so all their attack power could only be brought by strength and skill damage. This undoubtedly made it easier to calculate. Brother Yu held a small notebook X and Y and muttered. Yutian Shenming paused his attack and came over to take a look. He exclaimed, Is there a need to make equations? Han family young master cast a sidelong glance at Yutian Shenming. I just knew that a student like you who plays online every day definitely didn't study properly. Is that an equation? That's a function. X and Y are 2 variables here. Variables, do you understand? They talked as they ran. At this time, the opponent had been buffed with the King's Command status, so they naturally wanted to seize the opportunity to launch an attack. Unfortunately, the Child Elite group was a group of veterans. They wouldn't be stupid enough to clash head-on at this time, so they scattered and ran in all directions. Even unscathed in battle, who was the closest to them, used charge and leaped out. In an instant, he opened up a distance between himself and the others. It was enough for him to escape. Not long after, the King's Command skill's duration was up. The golden light dissipated and the group returned to turtle speed. Naturally, they didn't have any intention of catching up to anyone. Han family young master looked at the time and muttered, The skill cooldown is at least 10 minutes. Last time, the skill lasted for nearly 25 seconds. This time it's a bit short. Maybe it's because Silvermoon used 3 blessing skills beforehand. It looks like this skill is a skill that continuously consumes mana. After saying this, he shouted at Brother Yu. Brother Yu, how's your calculation? Don't be anxious. How can it be calculated so quickly? We don't know the damage of that guy's charge skill. The calculation might not be too accurate. It's best if someone goes and gets charged again. Brother Yu said. What's there to charge for? The battle is about to end. Han family young master said as he looked somewhere. In that direction, Gu Fei had already recovered his mana and was rushing over anxiously. Chapter 197. Leave it to me. Gu Fei shouted, already appearing in the middle of the battlefield. Yutian Shenming and the others looked dejected. At this time, their opponents still had 3 warriors and 1 knight. All of them had stronger physical defense than magic defense, especially the 2 warriors with heavy armor. Yutian Shenming's arrows didn't even feel them. Against these people, Gu Fei's magic damage was obviously more effective. Coupled with his strong skills, They knew that they couldn't compete with Gu Fei. But even if they couldn't compete, they had to try their best. This was the awareness that an expert should have. Sword Demon and Unscathed in battle pounced like ferocious tigers coming down the mountain. Yutian Shenming, who attacked from a distance, also roared and madly shot arrows. For a moment, Silvermoon and the others didn't know why these guys suddenly burst out with such a vigorous fighting spirit. They couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. They had already subconsciously moved back a few steps. Whoosh whoosh. Yutian Shenming's arrows were the fastest, whistling through the air. Who are you shooting at? Gu Fei dodged 2 arrows in a row and turned back to roar. Yutian Shenming seemed to have made him one of his targets. Ow 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 ow. Yutian Shenming continued to act crazy. The longbow in his hand was like a machine gun, shooting randomly. Out of 10 arrows, half flew towards Gu Fei. I'll kill you. Gu Fei also jumped up and turned back to attack Yutian Shenming. Yutian Shenming turned around and ran shouting, Sword Demon Wuxiang, do your best. Yutian Shenming had a lot of experience as a wizard. He knew that Gu Fei could teleport to his side, so he kept 5 meters away. Even if Gu Fei teleported, it wouldn't help. Gu Fei couldn't catch up, but if he didn't, Yutian Shenming would keep harassing him. Gu Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He asked Han family young master for help. Hey, take care of it. This is too reckless. Han family young master nodded. I didn't want to take care of it, but since you asked then. Han family young master paused and stared at Gu Fei sternly. Go to the side and rest for a while. Give everyone a chance to have fun. Gu Fei was stunned. On the other side, Sword Demon and Unscathed in battle had already started fighting. Zhan Wuxiang immediately used his ultimate move. With a loud roar, he unleashed his whirlwind slash. His opponent's heavy soldier didn't stay idle either. He raised his large shield in front of him, and clanging sounds rang out incessantly. This was the first person who dared to face his whirlwind slash head-on. Sparks flew as the 2 swords rubbed against the shield. Unscathed in battle looked like a hard-working welder. Sword Demon quickly circled around but couldn't find a chance to attack. After all, the opponent was an expert who had experienced big battles. At this time, the 3 of them had their backs to each other in a triangle. Sword Demon wanted to go behind them, but he didn't have a chance to attack. If a thief didn't use a sneak attack and attacked head-on, he wouldn't be a match for a warrior. Instead of fighting a warrior head-on, it was better to stab the warrior. After all, the opponent didn't have a priest now. 1 drop of HP was 1 drop, and he wouldn't have a chance to recover. Sword Demon fiercely stabbed the shield of the other warrior. Just in time for a burst of luck, it was a fatal attack. Fatal attacks could be said to be the nemesis of high defense and high HP professions, because fatal attacks completely ignored defense, and the HP was deducted by percentage. The more HP one had, the more damage one would lose. Sword Demon's Frostbite's memories had a 30% critical rate and a 30% critical rate. This was a very scary attribute. It was also the main reason why the attack power of Frostbite's memories was outdated, but Sword Demon still used it as his main weapon. With a fatal attack, the warrior's HP was immediately shaved off 30%, and he broke out in a cold sweat. Ever since he picked up this big shield, no one had been able to deal so much damage to him. He knew in his heart that it was a fatal attack, but 30% critical rate, that was the first time he encountered it. This attack greatly boosted the morale of Sword Demon, and he became more confident with the next stab. However, although a fatal attack was good, it couldn't really be fatal, because the HP of a fatal attack was always calculated according to the current HP, and the calculation method was a percentage. In theory, it was a math problem that could never be divided to 0. And if Sword Demon didn't use a fatal attack, the attack power of Frostbite's memories couldn't break the warrior's defense at all. He could only rely on this 30% probability to consume the HP. He didn't know what the other party was planning, but he was relying on these 2 heavy armored warriors to tank the attacks. After Zhan Wuxiang had his fill of being an electric welder, he shot a look at Sword Ghost. Sword Ghost understood what he meant, and the 2 of them circled to the left and right, wanting to attack the ordinary warrior together. But this intention was easily seen through by the opponent, and the 4 skillfully switched positions. Sword Demon and Unscathed in Battle circled around, but all they saw was the big shield. This stalemate didn't last long. Silvermoon, who was in the circle of 3 opponents, let out a long breath, raised her long sword, and released a few chants. Each of the 3 warriors was given a life blessing. Life blessing was a skill that automatically recovered some HP every 5 seconds. In a high-tempo battle, 5 seconds might seem too long, but at this time, for these warriors with high defense, 5 seconds was nothing at all. And this wasn't the end. After Silvermoon cast the blessing, she continued to chant, and holy white light fell on the 2 warriors one by one. The style was vaguely similar to that of a priest. The experienced experts were all startled. This was the first skill after the paladin profession, Holy Heal. Its effect was the same as the priest's heal, which was also a skill that recovered HP. Sword Demon and Unscathed in Battle were very depressed. If they had the heal skill, it wouldn't be so easy for the 2 of them to exhaust the opponent's HP. After all, the defense of the 2 warriors was at an abnormal level. Just as they were helpless, the opponent suddenly changed from defense to offense. The 2 warriors launched a charge, at the same time, crashing into the 2 of them. The damage wasn't much, but the charge had a chance to cause a stun effect. At this time, Unscathed in Battle was very unlucky and was stunned, unable to do anything for a while. Although Sword Demon didn't faint, he was pushed far away by the shield. In just an instant, Unscathed in Battle had fallen into the opponent's encirclement. "Look," said the Han family young master to Brother Yu. They were defending just now to wait for Silvermoon to recover his mana. Once again, this proves that his OP skill continuously consumes mana. Just now he used up all his mana. Brother Yu nodded and excitedly yelled at Unscathed in Battle. "What was the damage of that charge just now?" "Damage my ass. Hurry up and help me," roared Unscathed in Battle. At this time, surrounded by 4 people, the 2 warriors didn't have much attack power. However, the 2 large shields on the left and right blocked Unscathed in Battle's path. Silvermoon and the other warrior took out their swords and stabbed at Unscathed in Battle to vent their anger. Brother Yu's eyes lit up even more. He yelled at Unscathed in Battle. "What was the damage of that sword? Hurry up and write it down, hurry up and write it down." He tried to use this opportunity to figure out the normal attack attributes of Silvermoon's king's sword. What a bunch of scum. Unscathed in Battle looked up to the sky and sighed. He wanted to cry, but no tears came out. "Even if you die, you have to die for something," shouted Brother Yu. "Collect data." That being said, no one would really let Unscathed in Battle get stabbed to death. Everyone temporarily put down what they were doing and came to help. The Han family young master quickly cast a few healing spells on Unscathed in Battle. Brother Yu also cast a blessing of endurance to help slightly increase his defense. Sword Demon waved his large staff and rushed over to help Unscathed in Battle. The entangled Gu Fei and Yutian Shenming came to help in time. Yutian Shenming roared and finally shot his arrows at the enemy. Gu Fei threw a small fireball over and followed closely behind. "Hold on." Silvermoon was also gritting her teeth. They desperately wanted to finish off Unscathed in Battle before the enemy's reinforcements arrived. But with just his and the warriors' normal attacks, finishing off Unscathed in Battle wasn't something that could be done in an instant. Seeing that their efficiency was far from enough, the warrior opposite Silvermoon yelled, "Spread out." There was no need to say anything about the tacit understanding between the few of them. The 2 heavy soldiers took a step back, while Silvermoon did the same. At the same time, she cast a power blessing on the soldier. The warrior let out a low roar and lowered his sword, preparing to use Whirlwind Slash on Unscathed in Battle. This was much more effective than the 2's normal attacks. Whether or not they could kill him depended on this one move. Everything happened so quickly and suddenly that Unscathed in Battle couldn't react in time. Under their expectant gazes, the space behind Unscathed in Battle suddenly shattered and distorted. "Fuck." Silvermoon roared. He had seen this scene many times today, and it really gave him a headache. Gu Fei had already teleported behind Unscathed in Battle. The sword in his hand had already been swung, and with the chant of Dual Flame Flash, it struck the warrior's body. Taking the initiative to kill the opponent before they could activate their whirlwind slash was Gu Fei's forte against warriors. This warrior was obviously more of a violent type. He didn't have much HP, and the warrior's physical defense was useless in front of magic. In the midst of the flames, the warrior had only raised his sword halfway before he disappeared. The whirlwind slash had been cast outside of the arena. Qianli, you're so loyal. Unscathed in battle was touched. Nonsense. If you die, you won't get perfect. The experience and money reward will be much less, Gu Fei said. He especially emphasized the word money. Gu Fei was in urgent need of money. His debt alone was more than 1,800 gold. At this time, Brother Yu saw that Unscathed in battle had been saved. He hurriedly called out to him. What's the data? Do you remember it? Unscathed in battle's face was full of tears. Is there really someone who cares about my safety? As he spoke, Yutian Shinming's voice floated over. He looked at Unscathed in battle and said regretfully, Why didn't you die? What a pity. Gu Fei nodded. See, there are still people who care about your life. Unscathed in battle's face was full of tears again. There were only 3 people left on Silvermoon's side. The last combatant had already disappeared. The 3 of them were at a loss. Only then did the young master's elite group stop fooling around and fight with all their might. The 2 sides lined up and stared at each other. Brother Yu saw that he didn't get any data despite having such a good opportunity. He felt depressed. He was like a normal player who didn't get any good equipment from a monster. Seeing that no one was moving or talking, Brother Yu was the first to jump out. Who dares to charge me? Brother Yu shouted at the 2 heavy warriors. Silvermoon frowned at him. Silvermoon frowned at him. He hadn't noticed that Brother Yu and the others were collecting information on his equipment. Seeing Silvermoon look at him, Brother Yu immediately shouted. What are you looking at? Kill me if you have the guts. Fortunately, the usually calm sword demon came over and pulled Brother Yu to the side. I've memorized the damage from charge. Brother Yu was overjoyed and immediately asked Sword Demon for the information. He only needed this point to calculate the attributes of Silvermoon's skill. After doing some calculations in his notebook, Brother Yu finally revealed a satisfied smile. Looks like it's an attribute increase. It's around 15%. Speed, attack, and HP all seem to have increased. This means that it should be an increase in all attributes, right? It's really overpowered. But the cooldown is 10 minutes and the skill only lasts for 25 seconds. It's only a surprise attack. Han Family Young Master said. Why do I feel like it wasn't just 25 seconds in Moonlit Night City? It seems like it's been a long time. Yutian Shinming said. The few of them were whispering and discussing, completely ignoring the 3 of them. When Silvermoon heard that the other party had actually dug out the attributes of his king's sword, he was shocked. At this time, Gu Fei had already stepped forward and smiled. Let's continue talking. Silvermoon carefully looked at the 6 people and also smiled. No need, we've lost. After saying this, he nodded towards the other 2. The 3 of them suddenly flashed and disappeared. What happened? Gu Fei was shocked. He admitted defeat. Han Family Young Master said indifferently. What a pity. Gu Fei sighed. I only managed to slash him once. There will be a chance. Han Family Young Master said. Look at how he was when he left. Sooner or later, he'll find a chance to take revenge. I'm really looking forward to it. Gu Fei was excited. Chapter 198. The battle with Silvermoon could be said to be a close shave. Gu Fei's teleportation caused Silvermoon and the others to feel dizzy and disoriented. If it was a normal mage, a teleport wouldn't be too hard to deal with. However, the problem was that Gu Fei's mage style was completely different from normal people. Teleporting would suddenly appear in front of you and cut you down. This was like a warrior that knew teleport. This was too hard to accept. After the system finished calculating the results and sent the 6 child elite group players out of the map, they saw Silvermoon and the others waiting for them outside the teleportation point. Good fight. Good fight. Silvermoon greeted them with a big smile as soon as she saw the 6 of them. The 6 were quite surprised. To be honest, after a match, Both sides would usually exchange a few words outside the arena. After all, it was a match organized by the system, not a revenge. Victory and defeat were decided, but the friendship was still there. Moreover, if one side lost, it usually meant that the other side was an expert. Most people in the game were happy to make friends with experts and felt proud of it. However, Silvermoon had a grudge against the child elite group, just like Han family young master said. Now that he had been eliminated by child elite group in the mercenary battle, everyone was hoping that he wouldn't set up an ambush outside the teleportation point. Who would have thought that he would be so happy? Silvermoon looked at the 6 of them with an expression of admiration. He extended his hand and shook everyone's hands. What's your name? What's your name? Apart from Gu Fei, he asked everyone's name. These people's names were all very famous in the online gaming world. When Silvermoon heard them, his jaw dropped. He couldn't help but shout, "I've heard a lot about you. I've heard a lot about you." When it came to Han family young master, Silvermoon tilted his head and thought for a while. He couldn't remember who this person was, so he treated him as a new talent like Gu Fei. I didn't think Cloud City would have so many epic experts. Silvermoon couldn't help but sigh. Epic level. Such exaggerated praise made the experts quite happy, and they couldn't help but feel a little lightheaded. Silvermoon then picked out a few people's strong points and praised them. For example, Imperial Divine Cries Mage, Invincible Battles Warrior, Brother Yu's Omniscience, Sword Ghost's Kingly Aura, and so on. A sugar-coated bullet. They were all corroded. Gu Fei thought to himself as he looked at Yu Tianxinming, Unscathed in Battle, and Brother Yu, who were already overjoyed. Look at the Sword Demon. As expected of someone who was born as a boss. In the face of such flattery, he was quite resistant and didn't bat an eyelid. Silvermoon, the Han family young master, did not know his true identity and was not familiar with him. For a moment he did not know what to say, so he simply said, "This brother is too handsome." "Yes, I know." The Han family young master responded faintly, which directly stunned Silvermoon for 3 seconds. He had to clench his teeth to not spit out the words "too shameless." Next was Gu Fei's turn. This time, thousands of words really turned into one sentence. Silvermoon said passionately, "Brother, you are too strong." Gu Fei smiled modestly. At this point, Silvermoon finished greeting everyone, and began to say goodbye reluctantly. "We are all playing mercenary groups. I hope there will be opportunities to cooperate in the future." After saying that, he said goodbye and left first. This Silvermoon was indeed born as an expert. His words of praise were very precise. If it was Gu Fei who did not have a deep understanding of the game, he wouldn't even understand what he was praising. However, the 2 people involved, Yu Tianxinming and Unscathed in Battle, were still intoxicated after Silvermoon left. This made the 2 of them extremely happy. Then they went to Little Ray's bar to celebrate a little, and advanced to the next round. In the process of despising Yu Tianxinming and Unscathed in Battle, the 2 of them insisted that they were just fooling around. "Humph. That kind of trash is not even in my sight." Yu Tianxinming glared at the front and made a aiming gesture. However, it seems that he no longer cares about what happened in Moonlit Night City. If that is really the case, this person is quite magnanimous. "Brother Yu said." However, the Han family young master sneered. "Magnanimous? I think he is very shrewd." In today's confrontation, he quietly set up a few traps. Fortunately, Qianli's newly mastered teleportation completely messed up his plans. Otherwise, the result would be hard to say. "Set up a trap? What kind of trap?" Yu Tianxinming asked. "Using a defensive stance to lure us into close combat with them," Han family young master said. "Long-range attacks are useless. Their defense is too strong," Yu Tianxinming said. "That is why I said that even though you know it is disadvantageous, you still have to step into a trap," Han family young master said. "Uft. Let's see who has the patience," Yu Tianxinming said. "It doesn't matter to us." Han family young master stretched his body. "I just don't know if anyone will participate in the guild confrontation when it is 9 o'clock. Huh. Yu Tianxinming was startled. Then after another 2 to 3 hours, "I don't know if anyone will be in a hurry to go offline." Han family young master looked at Gu Fei. That is why I rushed up and killed them all. Gu Fei clenched his fists. At the mention of this matter, everyone became depressed again. Gu Fei had taken care of all the enemies in this match. Even if the others had helped from the side, their contributions wouldn't be as great as his. Imperial Sky Shinming watched as Sword Ghost took out a small notebook to calculate the points of this match, and he couldn't stop shouting, "Ah, ah, ah." Actually, the biggest reward from this match is the data of Silvermoon's skill. Don't you think so? Han family young master suddenly said. Everyone immediately understood when they heard this. They all expressed that this was the main point of the match, and that it was the most important aspect of the match. It was under my tactical arrangement that we managed to dig out the secret of Silvermoon's skill. Give me more points. Han family young master went up to look at Sword Demon's record. My calculations are also very complicated. Give me a few more points. Brother, you also patted Sword Demon. The data I got from being attacked. Unscathed in battle also came up to take credit. Sword Demon nodded his head and said, I also got attacked and got my data. What about me? What about me? Yutian Shunming was anxious. He couldn't think of any contribution in this matter. You lent me the pen and notebook I'm using. Brother, you waved the arithmetic book he had just used. Oh yeah. Yutian Shunming's worry turned to joy. Tianli didn't contribute at all. TSK. Everyone looked at Gu Fei and sighed. Gu Fei originally didn't want to argue with these guys about these stupid points. After all, he wasn't as passionate about these little things in the game. However, when he saw the gloating looks on their faces, he knew that they were up to no good on purpose. He immediately felt that he couldn't let them succeed in their scheme. He immediately asked, You can get points for gathering information on that skill? Of course. And you'll get a lot of points. Yutian Shunming immediately said. Give me a pen and paper. Gu Fei extended his hand. What for? I have information. Gu Fei said. Everyone was confused. Brother Yu pulled out a piece of paper from his notebook and gave it to Gu Fei along with a pen. Gu Fei took it and bent over the table. Not long after, he started writing. After a short while, he handed it back. 100% accurate and detailed information. Everyone continued to be confused as they took it. Equipped King's Sword. Added battle formation King's Command. Effect. All party members within range have their stats increased by 15%. Mana cost per second is 4% of max skill cooldown. 10 minutes. It wasn't just the description of the skill. Gu Fei also wrote down the King's Sword's normal attack numbers as well as the +8 to all stats. It's pretty good. Yutian Shunming was the first to snort. It's real. Gu Fei smiled. How do you know? Yutian Shunming said. Just ask the boundless Mang Mang. Gu Fei said. Everyone was stunned. Especially Brother Yu, who was doing math until his head was about to explode. He looked like a lamp that had run out of oil as he sat down on the sofa. How many points can we get like this? Gu Fei asked Sword Demon. Sword Demon looked sympathetically at the people who were racking their brains and said, Most of the points are still yours. Sword Demon, whose side are you on? Yutian Shunming roared. Roaring at the person in charge of recording the points? Your guts are too big. Sword Demon said indifferently. Sword Demon, who was familiar with the rules and regulations of the game, obviously wouldn't be easy to deal with. Haha. Big brother Sword Demon, is that enough wine? How about another cup? Yutian Shunming smiled. Sword Demon waved his hand and tore away the points he had just recorded and started writing again. Gu Fei had killed the most enemies and collected the most accurate and detailed information. He alone took up 75% of the points in this match. The faces of the people who were watching were like dead ashes. Students, harming others will eventually harm themselves. Remember this. I'm leaving first. Gu Fei got up and left the room. Ah. Wait. Brother Yu, who had been sitting in the corner of the room, saw Gu Fei leave and suddenly remembered something. He jumped up and chased after him. What is it? With a whoosh, Gu Fei teleported back and suddenly appeared in front of Brother Yu. He was so shocked that he almost couldn't breathe. After the guild match is over, I have something to talk to you about. You won't go offline, right? Brother Yu asked. It's still early. I won't go offline first. What's the matter? I'll call you when the time comes. Brother Yu patted him. Go do what you have to do first. After Gu Fei left, everyone in the room looked at Brother Yu. Brother Yu's smile was extremely wretched. The business is going very well. There will be many customers coming to negotiate tonight. Okay. Make a lot of money. Yu Tianxinming roared. Chapter 199. Of the 6 members of Child Elite Group, only Yu Tianxinming would participate in the guild competition after the mercenary tournament. After Gu Fei left, Brother Yu had already started to make arrangements in Little Ray's bar. Yu Tianxinming was afraid that he wouldn't be able to get a piece of the pie, so he repeatedly urged Brother Yu to wait for him to come back before starting. Don't worry. Brother Yu patted his chest. After receiving this reply, Yu Tianxinming felt relieved and went to participate in his guild competition. Brother Yu had already planned for this matter. Even the owner of the bar, Little Ray, seemed to have become his business partner. Under Little Ray's arrangement, the customers in the bar were all gathered to the left side, while the right side was empty. Brother Yu ordered Unscathed in Battle, who had infinite strength, to pull up the benches and put together the tables. In an instant, it looked like the scene of a press conference. The players in the bar were naturally curious and asked what was going on. Brother Yu just smiled and didn't answer. Unscathed in Battle, who had put in the hard work, looked at the clean scene and opened his mouth wide. Is there a need to make such a big scene? This is marketing, Brother Yu said. Brother Yu said, only goods that you value enough will attract the desire of others to buy them. Han Family Young Master, who was holding a glass of wine in his hand, poked his head out of the private room and interrupted. Marketing? I think this is mischievous. If you really want to make it so grand, do you want to play Qianli to death, or do you want Qianli to hack us to death? Yeah. Unscathed in Battle echoed. You should arrange for Qianli to meet them one by one in private. With so many people at once, not only will Qianli be dissatisfied, I don't think these customers will be happy either. Everyone is willing to meet them one by one. The problem is, how are we going to fool Qianli? We might as well trick them all at once and expose them in front of everyone. Brother Yu said. You have to be careful. You're dealing with all the bosses in Cloud City right now. If any of them were to stand out and be dissatisfied with you, you'll have a hard time in the future. Han Family Young Master said. It's okay. Brother Yu smiled slyly. I've already talked to them. This also shows that it's not easy to get to know this mage. That's why they're more than happy to fork out the money. How much are you going to charge? Han Family Young Master asked. 100 gold coins per person. That's not too expensive, right? Brother Yu said. Indeed, it's nothing to those influential people. The Han Family Young Master nodded his head. How much can we earn this time? This was Unscathed in Battle's main concern. Hee. Brother Yu laughed. 122 guilds and 27 mercenary groups have expressed interest. How much do you think? 14,900 gold coins. Unscathed in Battle was dumbfounded. You've attracted so much attention in such a short time? That's quite efficient. Han Family Young Master said. It's all thanks to you guys and Yunmu Guild for doing so many things these past 2 days. Their advertisements all over the city have helped us a lot. Brother Yu smiled faintly. Then why rush it today? Maybe we'll get more profit if we wait a few more days. Han Family Young Master said. Right now, Unscathed and Yunmu Guild's advertisements are at their strongest. The entire city is filled with curiosity. After this time, everyone's interest will cool down. Many people will probably adopt a wait-and-see attitude. For this kind of business, you can earn as much as you can. If you miss this opportunity, there won't be another one. Why bother about how much? Be careful that you don't end up with nothing. Brother Yu said. While the two were discussing the tricks of speculation, Unscathed in Battle was calculating with his fingers. 14900. Then how much can I get? Unscathed in Battle calculated and glanced at Sword Demon, who was watching coldly from the side. He asked, Sword demon, this is a pie that fell from the sky. You're really not going to take it? Sword demon smiled indifferently. I'll pass. I'll be leaving first. You guys go. I won't be sending you off. Unscathed in battle didn't have any intentions of persuading him. One less person participating meant one less person to split the money, and he could take more. Unscathed in battle had such a simple thought. When he heard of such a huge amount, he even wished that no one would participate, and that he could manage it alone. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but feel excited that Brother Yu was doing such a big business with everyone. It was obvious that this business didn't require any combat power. As long as it was one person, Brother Yu could do it alone. Now that you're doing it with everyone, how interesting. Unscathed in battle's heart was filled with emotion. As he thought about it, he sent a message to Yu Tianxinming. Hey, still not coming? We're about to start. We don't have time to wait for you. What? It's only been 5 minutes and you guys are already starting? You guys are doing this on purpose. Yu Tianxinming, who was in the middle of a guild battle, was anxious. We have no choice. The customer is God. There are many things that we can't control. Unscathed in battle was gloating and bragging. If Yu Tianxinming was exasperated and shouted, "You guys do it, don't worry about me," he would have achieved his true goal. Unfortunately, Yu Tianxinming wasn't so impulsive. After calmly weighing the benefits, he resolutely gave up on the guild battle. Using the excuse of having diarrhea and needing to go to the toilet, he informed his guild comrades and volunteered to die. After exiting the battlefield map, he ran like a whirlwind to Little Ray's bar. When he entered the bar, the left side was packed with people, and the right side was empty. Only Brother Yu and the Han family young master randomly picked a place to drink and chat. When they saw Yu Tianxinming suddenly enter, the two were even a little surprised. Brother Yu looked at the time. It's over already? Had reigning the four seas become so powerful? If I remember correctly, your opponent today is also a level 4 guild. It shouldn't be this fast, right? From the corner of his eye, Yu Tianxinming saw Unscathed in battle laughing uncontrollably in the corner. He knew that he had been tricked and roared as he shot an endless number of arrows at Unscathed in battle. I don't care about the replies. Han family young master reminded the two indifferently. The two immediately didn't dare to be too arrogant, afraid that they would accidentally kill the other party. Although they often hoped that the other party would die a horrible death, they hoped that the other party would be surrounded and killed, ambushed and PK killed, or accidentally killed by their comrades in battle. They never hoped that the other party would die by their own hands. Yu Tianxinming temporarily calmed down and looked at the layout of the bar. Like the many players who didn't know the inside story, he asked, "What are they doing?" "Gather up. It'll be over in one meet and greet." Brother Yu said, and then instructed Unscathed in battle. "You have an important mission, which is to keep an eye on Qianli. Don't let him escape. If you notice that the situation isn't right and he wants to escape, you have to catch him. Since it's come to this, just ignore his wishes." Unscathed in battle's face was gloomy. "This mission is too dangerous." Brother Yu nodded. "So in terms of money, we will give you an appropriate amount of compensation. If I really die, no amount of money will be able to make up for the damage to my heart. So you guys see, any opportunity to earn big money has a certain amount of risk." Brother Yu said. "Why do I feel like this risk is being borne by me alone?" Unscathed in battle's face was sullen. "Only you can easily catch Qianli and not let him escape. How about this? Everyone gather some anti-magic equipment. You wear it first. When the time comes, I will bless you with energy. Gongzi's recovery spell will be ready at any time. You can go in peace," Brother Yu said. With that said, each of them contributed their various magic defense equipment. Unscathed in battle temporarily took off his heavy armor and all kinds of rough accessories and put on these miscellaneous things. But the anti-magic equipment provided by the others were all of the slimmer type, which really didn't match Unscathed in battle's rough physique and temperament. Thus, the most incongruous warrior in history was born. "Stain, this is really a stain on my life." Unscathed in battle looked down at himself, flustered and exasperated. His feelings for warriors didn't lose out to Yu Tianxinming's feelings for wizards. He really couldn't stand such a weirdly dressed warrior, and even worse, this warrior was himself. Bear with it, safety first. Brother Yu said solemnly, holding back his laughter. Then the four of them discussed some of the details of this event, while Boss Little Ray maintained order in the tavern. As time passed, Brother Yu muttered, "Someone should be here soon, right?" Just as he finished muttering, the tavern's right door was kicked open. "Damn it, I finally found you. This Little Ray's bar is looking for death." Brother Yu and the others turned their heads to look, and couldn't help but be startled. There were 3 people who entered together, and the one in front was the current boss of Moonlit Night City, the legendary leader of the 10 Meetings Alliance, Yin Zhongmu. Yin Zhongmu also glanced at the 4 of them, and approached them with a chuckle. "I knew it was you guys who spread the news. Heh, you guys came up with this kind of method to earn money, you guys are really awesome." After saying that, he took out a bag of money from his pocket, and threw it on the table. "I heard it's 100 gold coins? Come count it." After saying that, he rubbed his hands, found a place to sit, and looked around. "I've been wanting to get to know this brother for a long time. How is it? Where is he? Still not here?" Brother Yu and the others were still in a daze, and no one touched the bag of money on the table. After a while, Yutian Shenming was the first to come back to his senses, and looked at Brother Yu. Awesome, he even opened his business to the outer city. Brother Yu was also surprised. "Those who want to come will contact me in advance, but this guy came by himself without saying a word." "Then, I'm afraid he's not the only one like this, right?" Han Family Young Master said calmly. Looks like it's more than 14,900 gold coins. No, it should be 15,000. Unscathed in Battle looked at the bag of money on the table excitedly. Chapter 200. He could instantly kill a group of people with just a wave of his hand. Such a powerful mage was definitely rare. Yin Zhongmu and the others clearly had Gu Fei in their hearts. Suddenly finding an opportunity to get to know him on the forums, they immediately ran over from Moonlit Night City. "You guys came all the way here. Don't you need to participate in the mercenary competition today?" Brother Yu greeted the 3 of them. "It would take at least 2 to 3 hours to get here from Moonlit Night City." Yin Zhongmu laughed. "With the strength of our mercenary group and guild, missing 3 people doesn't matter at all." After saying this, he swept his gaze across the empty area in the tavern. "What a big show. There must be a lot of people coming tonight." Brother Yu nodded. Yin Zhongmu looked at them again and asked, "Where's Boss Sword Demon? Why don't I see him?" During the battle in Moonlit Night City, Sword Demon had truly fought alongside them, so they were more familiar with each other. "He's busy, so he won't be coming." Brother Yu said, "It's rare for him to come over. Let's all have a drink after this." Yin Zhongmu said loudly. Han Family Young Master was obviously happy to hear this kind of suggestion. However, he and Yin Zhongmu had an argument in Moonlit Night City, and didn't like each other. When it came to drinking, one had to drink with the right people. Otherwise, it would be better to drink alone. Thus, this suggestion that should have been approved by Han Family Young Master, he didn't say a word. The others also let Yin Zhongmu shout without saying anything. At this time, the bosses of various guilds and mercenary groups in Cloud City started to appear in the tavern. Brother Yu didn't bother with Yin Zhongmu and got up to greet the guests. Greeting them was actually secondary. Brother Yu arranged for everyone to sit down, but the main point was to collect the fee first. At this time, everyone's reactions were different. Some didn't say anything and handed over their money on the spot. Some were hesitant and worried that this was a scam. They wouldn't release the eagle until they saw the rabbit. There were also some who liked to win people's hearts. Seeing this situation, they immediately took advantage of the situation. They handed over their money pouches and shouted, "Just from the name of your brother Yu, I can trust you." Han Family Young Master realized that the effect of the advertisement wasn't just limited to the commotion caused by playing Wine and Yunmu Guild in the past 2 days. The information released by the intelligence expert, Brother Yu, was a living signboard. Brother Yu's influence in the gaming forum was not to be underestimated. Brother Yu was patiently persuading those who didn't want to pay first. "Everyone here is a boss. If I cheat you, how am I going to survive in the future?" Some of them thought it was reasonable and immediately took out their money, but there were always those who refused to take it no matter what. In such a situation, Brother Yu could not help but wonder if the other party was the real scammer. After all, although Brother Yu was the seller, he was the weaker party. Facing these boss-level figures, if they were really shameless and refused to pay after the matter, Brother Yu really could not do anything. After all, it was only 100 gold coins. It wasn't good to gather people and fight with them. Just say it was for 100 gold coins? That would be really embarrassing. What should we do if we meet such a person? Han family young master had already expected this situation and asked Brother Yu. Then we can only ask him to leave. Brother Yu answered. At that moment, facing a few people who refused to pay, Brother Yu said frankly, "Everyone, the rule today is that you have to pay first. So many bosses have paid first. If you don't want to pay, wouldn't it be unfair to them? If you insist, then I'm sorry," Brother Yu said as he gestured in the direction of the door. Of course, there were some who were not easy to get along with. They immediately slammed the table and jumped up, pointing at Brother Yu and yelling. At the same time, they also yelled at the other bosses, saying that the rule of receiving money first before looking at the goods was unreasonable, and that they should work together to protect their own rights and so on. What if someone jumps up and yells? Han family young master had already expected this kind of people. If I set the price at 1,000 gold coins, it would be very dangerous. Unfortunately, I set the price at 100 gold coins, which is nothing to most bosses. Those who would jump up and yell because of this amount of money are just small shrimps who can't do anything. There's no need to worry about them. Brother Yu answered. The small shrimps who were trying to provoke the public were jumping up and down, but their reaction was mediocre. Even Brother Yu was watching him with a smile. This person was indignant and was about to increase the intensity of his provocation. Suddenly, someone also slammed the table and stood up. Just when he was pleased that his persuasion was finally effective, he saw this person pointing at his nose and scolding. So noisy, who are you? Get out if you don't want to pay. Boss Wuxia. How can you say that? You see, I'm just... This person did not know many of them, but he knew all the bosses present here very well. He could even call out the name of any one of them who stood up from the table. Unfortunately, they didn't even bother to listen to him. Not only this person called Wuxia, the other bosses also began to glare at him. Just as Brother Yu said, if he offended all these bosses, how could he survive in the future? This person saw that the situation wasn't right, so he immediately shut his mouth and left the tavern with his tail between his legs. Like him, two of his comrades who refused to pay first immediately stood up and left, while the rest were finally willing to pay the 100 gold coins. Although this was a small incident, it saved a lot of trouble for the future work. If the players who came later had doubts about paying 100 gold coins first, all the bosses would immediately glare at them. Brother Yu's money was really easy. Not only that, but the bosses also remembered that they had to spend money to meet this powerful mage. At this moment, the other customers in the tavern had gotten a great deal for free. With this thought in mind, all the bosses glared at the other customers in the tavern. After watching for a long time, these bystanders had a general understanding of the situation. At least at this time, if they wanted to stay in the tavern, they had to pay 100 gold coins. This was clear to everyone. So without waiting for others to say anything, most of them took the initiative to leave. There were also a few who were curious and didn't lack money. They also threw 100 gold coins at Brother Yu, indicating that they wanted to stay and see what was going on. There were also more than 10 people like this. It was really a windfall. Unscathed in battle, who was hiding in the corner, was so happy that he couldn't close his mouth. As for why he was hiding in the corner, it was because he was embarrassed to stand in front of the crowd, because he was too embarrassed to stand in front of the crowd. The situation had stabilized. The whole little raised bar had unexpectedly become the meeting place. Everyone noisily rearranged their seats, making it spacious and comfortable. At this time, no one had entered the tavern for a long time. Although there was still some time before Brother Yu's notice, there were already people who couldn't wait and asked Brother Yu if they could start early. There are still people who haven't arrived. Brother Yu smiled. Let's start on time. Everyone have a few drinks first. All the drinks are on me. The bosses didn't say anything. A few drinks didn't make them excited. They had all spent 100 gold coins to sit here, so what was a free drink? While they were waiting foolishly, the door of the tavern, which had been silent for a long time, was suddenly pushed open again. A warrior in black armor silently walked in. There were people who recognized this person. Black Index Finger, the leader of the largest mercenary group in Cloud City. This person didn't say much. After coming in, he randomly found a place to sit down, put the money bag on the table, and let Brother Yu keep it. Just as everyone was whispering to each other, people suddenly arrived one after another. Moreover, these people were all famous names in Cloud City. Silvermoon with 2 brothers also entered the tavern. As soon as she saw Brother Yu and the others, she immediately greeted them warmly. "We meet so soon. You also?" Brother Yu was a little surprised. Silvermoon and Gu Fei were already acquainted. It seemed that there was no need to greet them. Silvermoon didn't say anything, paid the money and sat down. After that, 4 girls from the Rebirth of Amethyst also came down. July Luoluo, Slender Waist Dance, and Fiercely entered the tavern together. This group made Brother Yu faint. These people were so familiar with Gu Fei. What were they doing here? After casually throwing 100 gold coins, Slender Waist Dance glanced at Brother Yu. "Let's see what you guys are up to." Then another mage, a fighter, and a thief entered the tavern. Before Brother Yu could go up and talk, Yutian Shinming had already jumped up. "What are you doing here?" "Killing a level mage. Of course I want to get to know you." The mage smiled. "You are?" Brother Yu asked. "Drifting." The person replied as he handed over the money bag. The tavern immediately went into an uproar. Unlike Slender Waist Dance, who was in Cloud City and had joined the Rebirth of Amethyst, not many people knew that Drifting was also in Cloud City. The bosses immediately felt their blood boil. This kind of person was also someone that they should focus on recruiting. Many people looked at Drifting and Slender Waist Dance, guessing if there would be any sparks between these two who were both part of the 5 roaches. Unfortunately, there was no communication between the two. Yutian Shinming jumped up and down to Brother Yu's side, pointing at Drifting's money bag and shouting, take it," making him spend 100 gold coins, only to find out that this person was Qianli, whom he had known for a long time. Haha, this feels good. Yutian Shinming had a wicked fantasy in his mind. After Drifting paid the money and sat down, another person entered the tavern. It was an extremely beautiful girl. She looked around and muttered, "I should have done this earlier," as she took out her wallet. Unexpectedly, a few of the bosses had already flipped the table and stood up, pointing at the girl and about to take out their weapons. The girl was shocked, as if she had just woken up from a dream. "That's right. How can such a public method be suitable for me?" As he muttered to himself, he had already fled, leaving Brother Yu, who had stretched out his hand to receive the money, at a complete loss. While he was at a loss, the other door of the tavern was pushed open. The leader of the largest guild in Cloud City, Unsworn Sword, had finally arrived. Behind him were his 2 companions, Time Reflected and Wind Star. Ah, so many people. Unsworn Sword had the aura of a big guild leader. He picked a seat with an imposing appearance and threw a money bag to Brother Yu. "Can we start?" Brother Yu took it and nodded. "Wait a moment." After that, he had already sent a message to Gu Fei. "Come to Little Ray's bar." "Oh, such a coincidence. I'm also going over." Gu Fei replied. "Butterfly knot. Ah, it's already 200 chapters, it's so heroic. Tomorrow's Little Ray's bar will be very lively." Chapter 201. Comrades, they'll be here soon. Brother Yu announced as he scanned the crowd. He then whispered to Han Family Young Master. "Those who should be here aren't here, but there are so many who shouldn't be here." "Are you talking about Singing to Wine and Yunmu Guild?" Han Family Young Master smiled. Brother Yu nodded. "If Singing to Wine asked for people, would I still be sitting here so calmly? I'd have to avoid them no matter what." Han Family Young Master smiled. "What's going on?" Brother Yu asked. "I'm not sure. I think they've already met up with Qianli." Han family young master said. That means Yunmu Guild is the same. I didn't expect their advertisement to be so effective. Brother Yu was surprised. The Han family's young master shrugged. Brother Yu scanned the crowd again and said to Han family young master. I also saw some people hiding, as if they're too embarrassed to show their faces in front of everyone. They're all new faces. The Han family's young master nodded. I've noticed it too. Both of them subconsciously glanced at the few people hiding in the shadows. We don't have time to think so much. The focus of this event is still on Qianli. Let's get ready, Han family young master said. Brother Yu nodded and signaled to Unscathed in Battle. Unscathed in Battle came out from a dark corner. The noisy bar instantly quietened down. What's that? A pet. I've never heard of a pet system. The bosses whispered. Unscathed in Battle's outfit was too weird. As a VR game, one couldn't just look at the stats. Appearance was also an important factor. At that moment, Zhang Wuxiang's messy collection of various styles was put together like an abstract oil painting. Imperial Sky Divine Ming was laughing so hard that his mouth was cramping, attracting the attention of some people. Unfortunately, he was noticed by Sword Without Oath, who had just arrived and immediately called out. Imperial Sky, why are you here too? As the guild leader, he didn't necessarily know everyone in the guild, but Imperial God Ming's name alone was enough to draw attention. Naturally, Unsworn Sword paid some attention to him. If it wasn't for Yu Tianxinming's young age and the fact that he wasn't playing sorcerer, he would have invited him to be a core member long ago. Imperial Sky God Ming was so pleased with himself that he exposed himself, but he quickly turned from guest to host. At President, you're here too. You also want to get to know this mage? Why don't you just ask me? I know him. At this time, the Sword of No Oath had already been paid, and Imperial Heaven Divine Ming also began to boast shamelessly. However, it was only 100 gold coins, so Unsworn Sword didn't feel any regret. Instead, he felt that there was someone in the guild who knew the sorcerer, and there would be many opportunities to talk to him in the future. There were so many people here today, and they were probably just here to get to know each other. If they were lucky, they could add each other as friends. It was probably impossible to talk about roping him in today. Zhang Wuxiang shocked everyone the moment he showed his face. He was so shocked that he was embarrassed on the spot. Brother Yu patted him on the shoulder and whispered in his ear. We'll give you more money. Zhang Wuxiang gritted his teeth and steeled his heart. He didn't care anymore and strode to the door with his usual bold steps. They had already planned it out. As soon as Gu Fei entered the door, Unscathed in Battle would put his arm around his shoulder intimately. This way he would never be able to escape. Little Ray, close that door. Brother Yu said to Little Ray. There were 2 doors in the tavern, one on the left and one on the right. Unscathed in Battle guarded the right door. Little Ray nodded. As the owner of the tavern, he was allowed to do this. He was about to lock the left door, but it aroused some of the boss's suspicions. Guarding the right door, and locking the left door at the same time. No matter how you looked at it, they were going to close the door and beat the dogs. The experienced bosses were all on alert, especially the ones that Brother Yu and the Han family young master were paying attention to. For a moment, they seemed like they were going to rush out first. Brother Yu did not foresee that this would cause suspicion. He explained, I just don't want to be disturbed. What I'm selling should be considered information. Only those who paid will sit here. If someone accidentally broke in and heard the information for nothing, it would be unfair to everyone. Brother Yu did not say that he was afraid of the goods escaping. Instead, he found such a high-sounding reason. The bosses accepted this explanation, and no longer cared about how Little Ray locked the door. They continued to pay attention to the colorful Unscathed in Battle guarding the right door. At this moment, the right door was pushed open with a squeak. A mage in a black robe appeared in front of everyone's expectant eyes. The bosses looked over eagerly, but found that this person had a mask on his face. However, the familiar Brother Yu and the Han family young master could tell that this person was Gu Fei from the shape of his body. Brother Yu was puzzled, but he quickly winked at Unscathed in Battle. Haha, why are you so late? Unscathed in Battle laughed amiably. He stretched out his arm to put it around Gu Fei's shoulder. Unexpectedly, Gu Fei seemed to be prepared. He dodged Unscathed in Battle's arm in a flash. He stared at Unscathed in Battle in surprise and said, "What is this?" "It's me." Unscathed in Battle hurriedly put his face in front of Gu Fei. "How did you end up like this?" Gu Fei was surprised. "It's a long story, cough," Unscathed in Battle said as he slapped Gu Fei again. However, Gu Fei took a step forward and dodged the slap. He took a few steps and arrived in front of Brother Yu. "Why are you looking for me?" Brother Yu cleared his throat and was about to speak when Gu Fei suddenly reached out his hand to stop him. "Wait for me in the private room first. I'll come in after I'm done." What do you want?" Brother Yu was stunned. Gu Fei waved his hand and threw a gold coin at Little Ray. When he saw the signal, Little Ray was instantly stunned. Then he saw Gu Fei kick over a bench in front of him. He pulled out his sword and shouted, "Wanted mission. There's nothing else. Get out of here." There was an uproar. As the various bosses of Cloud City, they were very well informed. They had long heard of a mage who specialized in doing wanted missions. His skills were not bad. It was said that he had never failed before. There were also people who were curious and wanted to visit him. However, this person was doing wanted missions every day and chased after the coordinates all over the world. He was very secretive. Those who were lucky enough to see him once wanted to wait for him to finish his task before going to talk to him. In the end, when he was done and was tidying up his clothes, he disappeared in a flash of white light. No one knew the use of the wind-chasing emblem in this mission. Those who saw this scene all felt that this person was actually using a teleportation scroll to do wanted missions. It was really very professional and extravagant. Looking at the expressions of Brother Yu and the others, the powerful mage he was referring to was undoubtedly this person. Among the people present, those who were familiar with Gu Fei, such as Thin Waist Dance and the others, recognized this person as Gu Fei based on his figure and clothes. Drifting, who wasn't very familiar with Gu Fei, saw the scene of him throwing gold coins and shouting, "Wanted mission," and already remembered the scene when they first met. He smiled knowingly. It's really him. There was another person who knew Gu Fei through this mission, and that was Silvermoon. And that was the starting point of all the events in Moonlit Night City. For a moment, Silvermoon was in a trance. Gu Fei's words shocked everyone. Then he waved his sword forward. "It's you. Everyone else make way." However, this sword was just a trick. He quickly pointed, and then withdrew his sword. At least a dozen people thought that Gu Fei was pointing at them. There were many bosses here who had PK points. Unfortunately, when Gu Fei pointed at them, they immediately didn't know what to do. Even if they didn't have PK points, when they were targeted by Gu Fei, they were dazed for a moment and subconsciously dodged. There weren't that many top experts in the game, and it wasn't possible for all of them to coincidentally gather in Cloud City to be the boss of a guild. Being the boss of a guild didn't mean that you could fight 100 people at once. Your main advantage was that you could fight 100 people at once. However, everyone came here alone and didn't have any underlings. Facing a legendary mage who could instantly kill people, they instantly felt insecure. Make way. Make way. Magic doesn't have eyes. Gu Fei shouted as he waved his sword and chanted. This time, even more people panicked. In a place like the tavern, everyone sat close to each other. They were even more united than when they were fighting. If a mage really cast an AoE spell, the consequences would be unimaginable. Fire 3,000 layers flames. Rise. Gu Fei randomly pointed at a place and began to chant. It immediately caused a huge commotion. The bosses lost their courage and stood up to dodge. However, Gu Fei's chanting this time was purely an illusion. When he pointed his sword at a location, he used Fickle in the morning, Fickle in the evening, pointing at more than a dozen places. Even the most experienced player would not be able to tell where the fire would come from. Of course, an experienced and calm master like Drifter could tell that the spell couldn't be cast when the sword danced like that. When casting this type of spell, the mage's hand or staff had to point at the place where the spell was going to attack. For example, Gu Fei's sword shook more than 10 times while he was chanting. Drifting didn't know how he did it, but he was sure that it was a failed chant. Drifting wasn't the only one who could tell that Gu Fei was just bluffing. Looking at the scene reigning the four seas, the leader of Black Mercenary Group, Black Index Finger, Silvermoon, Cloud Twilight from Moonlit City, and a few other guild leaders were all sitting still. Apart from them, the reborn Amethyst girls were also very calm. They thought that they were friends with Gu Fei. Even if they were the wanted targets, they had to let him go. Chapter 202. Those who could calmly see through Gu Fei's trick were few and far between. Most of them were confused by his fickleness and thought that Gu Fei had cast the spell on the soles of their feet. The scene instantly went out of control. The bosses screamed as they got up and ran away. Drifting and the other experts looked at the panicking bosses with contempt. Suddenly, there was a loud bang and a huge flame burst out from the ground in the middle of the tavern. The 1,000 layers of flames of the cinder tree had really started burning. The range of the spell could not possibly cover the entire tavern. The players who were running away would naturally run from the center to the sides. No one would run to the center. Not many people were hit by the spell. Most of them were those who thought that they could see through Gu Fei's trick and were sitting comfortably. Among them were the number 1 mage, Drifting, the reborn Amethyst girls, and the leader of the Black Hand Mercenary Group, Black Index Finger. The ladies of Purple Crystal Rebirth knew how terrifying Gu Fei's magic was. Now that they were burned, it was already too late for them to dodge in shock. They thought that they would be sent back to their own rebirth grounds in an instant, but they didn't expect to be able to stay safely at the scene in the end. Naturally, they were filled with surprise. Drifting, the number 1 mage in the parallel world, did not even know how the spell was cast. He was reflecting on himself. As for the leader of the Black Hand Mercenary Group, he looked at the amount of HP he had lost and laughed. Insta-killed a level mage? Naturally, they weren't the only ones who were burned by the spell. There were also some who were slower. When they heard the Black Index Finger's words, they reacted and checked their damage, only to be taken aback. The damage of the 1,000 layers of flames of the cinder tree was far less than that of a naked level 40 mage. How could he call it an instant kill with this kind of damage? That was too shameless. Instant kill was Brother Yu's main slogan in the forum. Many people were attracted by these 2 words. Now that they had personally experienced the damage of Gu Fei's spell, they felt that they had been tricked. For a moment, the crowd was agitated. They pointed at Brother Yu and called him a liar. Some shouted for compensation, while others took out their weapons and wanted to fight. The scene became more and more chaotic. Everything that had happened was outside of Brother Yu's calculations. At this time, seeing so many people brandishing long knives, short knives, long bows, short bows, and scepters wanting to kill him, he couldn't help but panic a little. He hurriedly stretched out his hands to calm everyone down. He couldn't help but say, "Don't worry, everyone. Take your time, take your time." What else is there to say? Someone roared. "We've seen the damage of his spell. Is this an instant kill? Tui." Those who had been blasted by Gu Fei already had solid evidence to accuse Brother Yu. The others who had successfully escaped from the fire tree were now busy asking these people for advice. After hearing about the damage of Gu Fei's spell, dissatisfaction quickly spread through the tavern. In the blink of an eye, it had already spread from a small portion to a large portion. It only took 2 to 3 minutes for all of them to be dissatisfied. Brother Yu of course believed that Gu Fei's spell damage could definitely be called an instant kill. But it was also a fact that Gu Fei's fire tree 1,000 layers flames was being looked down upon. However, as the king of information, Brother Yu instantly understood what was going on. In the game, it wasn't easy for low damage to suddenly become high damage, but there were many ways for high damage players to reduce their damage. As Brother Yu thought about it, he looked at Gu Fei. Even though his face was covered, his eyes, which were exposed through the black cloth, made Brother Yu involuntarily scream in his heart. "Fuck, I've been tricked. Big brother, don't mess around, someone's going to die." Brother Yu immediately sent a private message to Gu Fei. "The user you have called is temporarily unavailable." The system prompted. Fuck, they came prepared. Brother Yu spat out a mouthful of blood. Masked, purposely used a weak spell when he came in, and even turned off messages. This guy had clearly seen through his plan, and was purposely here to cause trouble. Brother Yu's heart was filled with helplessness, but he could only watch helplessly as his group of bosses looked as if they were going to eat him alive. This was exactly what he said before to dispel everyone's doubts. Everyone here is a guild leader. If I offend all of you, how am I going to survive in Cloud City? I also have to run. Brother Yu's face was full of tears, and this was the only voice he had in his heart. Who would have thought that at this time, someone would suddenly stand up and say, everyone, calm down, calm down. The person who spoke was Han Family Young Master, but who were the people here? Han Family Young Master obviously didn't have any weight in their eyes, so naturally, no one would listen to what he said. A boss who liked to be arrogant had already pointed at his nose and shouted, "Who are you? Who are you?" At the same time, Brother Yu also received a private message from Han Family Young Master. If I solve this problem, will I get a big share? Looting a burning house? As an online gaming expert, private messages were faster than talking. Brother Yu couldn't do anything else, but in this aspect he was at the top. His reply was even faster than teleportation. Han Family Young Master didn't reply, but just looked at him and smiled. Brother Yu didn't know what kind of trick he had in his heart, so he helplessly nodded at him. Cough. Han Family Young Master cleared his throat. Quiet, quiet. Listen to my explanation. The young master of the Han family shouted at the noisy bosses in an unhurried manner. What else is there to explain? They continued to quarrel. Stop quarreling. Han Family Young Master suddenly shouted. This person isn't the insta-kill mage that we want to introduce to everyone. Han Family Young Master quickly finished this sentence. Everyone instantly became quiet. Even Gu Fei looked at Han Family Young Master in surprise. Then who is he? Someone immediately asked. How would I know? I don't know him. He's probably a troublemaker. Han Family Young Master said innocently. Fuck. How vicious. Brother Yu shouted in his heart. If Gu Fei was just a weak mage, then all the bosses present would obviously vent their dissatisfaction on his brother Yu. But at this moment, with Han Family Young Master's words, the previous incident became a misunderstanding. If someone wanted to settle the score for that flaming 3,000 layers flame, no matter what, they wouldn't be able to settle it with Brother Yu. This situation was indeed solved. Following that, there would probably be many bosses looking for the troublemaker Gu Fei to settle the score. This would definitely force Gu Fei to reveal his killer nature. When he reaches out his hand and kills a few, then the truth will speak louder than words, and everything will become simple again. It's just that who knows which pitiful people will be sacrificed like this. Brother Yu thought, and looked at the people present with a face of sympathy. He wanted to see who was more anxious about Gu Fei's anger. He was afraid that in the blink of an eye, they would die under Gu Fei's sword. Han Family Young Master's plan wasn't that complicated. Not only did Brother Yu understand it quickly, Gu Fei also understood it in the blink of an eye. In the end, he looked at the two and smiled faintly. I won't make a move even if I die. The Han clan's young master also smiled indifferently. Then you can go to hell. Right after saying they didn't know each other, the two of them immediately started a conversation. The people present obviously weren't stupid. Someone immediately questioned. I thought you guys didn't know each other? That's right. We don't know each other. Han Family Young Master said. Then what are you guys mumbling about? Someone asked. Fuck you. Han Family Young Master said. What did you say? The person who asked the question was furious. Didn't you ask us what we were talking about? Han Family Young Master continued to look innocent. The person who asked the question was momentarily speechless, and the following development once again exceeded Brother Yu's expectations. Among the people present, there were already some who were eager to make a move against Gu Fei. Silvermoon, who had been silent all this time, suddenly stood up and said calmly, Everyone don't panic. This person is right here, he can't run away even if he wants to. Don't forget that we didn't spend 100 gold coins today to fight. Let's first ask Brother Yu to invite the insta-kill level mage out. As she spoke, she was already staring maliciously at Brother Yu and the others. Frankly speaking, the meaning of Gu Fei's appearance was very obvious. It looked like these people were going to introduce him as the mage. Who would have thought that after this unexpected development, Han family young master would suddenly express that he didn't know this person? Things developed too quickly, and most people couldn't wrap their heads around it. And Silvermoon, who had been watching coldly from the sidelines, could be considered to know the ins and outs of Gu Fei. He wasn't like the others who would shift their attention between this person and that person. He was always staring at Gu Fei. Just now, when Gu Fei and Han family young master talked, under his close attention, he roughly heard the conversation and immediately deduced that there was some conflict between these people. And Gu Fei wasn't willing to be the insta-kill mage. And Han family young master also directly admitted that he didn't know this person. If they couldn't hand over an insta-kill mage at this time, this whole thing would still be a scam. These people would instantly be chased by the bosses of the entire Cloud City. This was simply too awesome. Who would have thought that the opportunity for revenge would come so soon? Silvermoon couldn't help but reveal a smile at the corner of his mouth. Brother, you heard everything and saw it all, including Silvermoon's evil smile at the end. His heart couldn't help but tighten. Just as Han family young master said, this Silvermoon was a very shrewd person. He knew that the child elite group was his biggest enemy, but on the surface, he didn't show it at all. Now that he seized the opportunity, he immediately jumped out and ruthlessly took a bite. This bite really hit the nail on the head. At this time, if they couldn't hand over an insta-kill mage, these experts would be on the forum headlines tomorrow. Their wisdom would also be destroyed in one day. The dignified online gaming experts had all become liars. At this time, he could only hope that Gu Fei could help everyone. Brother, you thought, already looking at Gu Fei. Of course, Gu Fei also knew the pros and cons. Although he really didn't want to be used as a cover to make money, Silvermoon's intentions were too obvious. At this time, he couldn't let this kind of villain succeed. After weighing the pros and cons, he decided to kill Silvermoon in one move to prove that he was an insta-kill mage. Other things could be dealt with later. Just as he was thinking about this, Han family young master suddenly spoke again. In such a dangerous situation, he still didn't change his calm demeanor. He said unhurriedly, everyone insta-kill mage. In fact, everyone has already seen him. He's one of the 5 rogues in the parallel world, the number 1 on the mage ranking, Drifting. As he spoke, Han family young master pointed at Drifting, who was sitting at the table and watching the situation coldly. Oh, brother, you came to a sudden realization. Only then did he realize that young Master Han's words to Gu Fei. Then you can go and die. That was not a threat, nor was it said out of anger. Instead, it was the truth. This fellow had already considered Drifting as a backup plan. However, was Drifting an insta-kill mage? Although he was one of the 5 rogues, he had never seen Drifting in action. Currently, the level gap between the players was very small. Whether or not one could insta-kill a mage depended on equipment and spell proficiency. However, Drifting's level was 1 level higher than everyone else's, so brother, you couldn't identify his equipment. Drifting, who was suddenly nominated, was also very surprised. He looked at Han family young master in a daze. The scene fell into silence again. Han family young master smiled and introduced Drifting to everyone. I'm sure everyone is familiar with the name Drifting, right? He has always been the number 1 on the mage ranking. This time he has come to our Cloud City. I think many of you probably don't know about him, right? Do you think the money you spent today was not worth it? Bullshit, bullshit. He's not an insta-kill mage. Yutian Shiming had always been a person who understood the big picture, but this young boy was more emotional than rational. At this time, Drifting, who he had always regarded as an enemy, was being promoted to such a high position. He was angry and shouted it out without caring about anything else. Han family young master was still not in a hurry. He looked at the direction of Sword of No Oath and said, Guild Master Sword of No Oath, take your family's wild child back and teach him a lesson. This kid has been looking down on Drifting for a long time. He knew that Drifting came to Cloud City, but he didn't introduce you to him. Don't blame him too much. The relationship between the 2 famous mages in the online gaming world was not harmonious. Experienced players knew a thing or two about it. Seeing that Yutian Shiming was just a young boy, Han family young master's words were easily accepted by everyone. Yutian Shenming was still yelling bullshit, bullshit, but everyone was looking at him with a doting gaze. They had completely regarded him as a naughty child. The atmosphere in the scene returned to harmony. Brother Yu looked at all of this in disbelief. Damn. It was really solved. Chapter 203. The tavern calmed down for the time being. The bosses whispered to each other, trying to sort out their thoughts, and peeked at drifting. Many of them had tried to add drifting as a friend, but they received a notification saying, "The friend button is not turned on." The bosses sitting near drifting had intentionally moved closer to him, ready to strike up a conversation with him. As for the conversation between Gu Fei and Unscathed in battle, and the eye contact he made with Brother Yu and Han family young master, of course, some people also saw it. It was a bit far-fetched to say that Gu Fei didn't know them at all. However, it was a good reason to get to know a sorcerer like drifting. After they calmed down, they remembered the purpose of this trip. Now the most important thing was to communicate with drifting before others did. Other things could be put aside for the time being. Drifting instantly became the center of attention, but he remained calm. Suddenly, he waved his hand at Han family young master and Brother Yu, putting up 5 fingers as if he was greeting them. Brother Yu didn't realize what was going on. He thought that drifting was waving at them because he was immersed in his role. What a nice guy. Brother Yu was touched and quickly waved at drifting. However, it seemed that drifting didn't pay much attention to him. Han family young master, on the other hand, didn't say anything. He waved one hand at his side and put up 3 fingers. Immediately, drifting put down his 5 fingers. His thumb turned into 4 fingers. So Han family young master put down his ring finger and put up his index finger and middle finger. This time, drifting simply retracted 3 fingers. He waved his index finger at them and then retracted his hand. All the players only noticed that drifting was waving his hand and didn't notice Han family young master's secret response. Only Brother Yu was right next to him and saw it. After they finished playing with their fingers, Brother Yu couldn't help but ask, "What the hell?" Han family young master explained to him. He said 5,000 gold coins, and I offered 3,000. Brother Yu understood. Then he said 4,000, and you offered 2,000? The Han family young master nodded. Then he took the initiative to reduce it to 1,000? Brother Yu asked incredulously. That finger means we'll talk about it later, said the Han family young master. You know each other? Brother Yu asked. It was hard to imagine that 2 people who did not know each other could have such a tacit understanding if they used their fingers to communicate. I don't know him. This is purely a matter of IQ. Han family young master said. Brother Yu was depressed. After exchanging a few fingers, drifting was completely immersed in his role. Before some people could figure out what was going on, he took the initiative to stand up, greet everyone, and said, I've just arrived in Cloud City not long ago. Please take care of me in the future. You're too kind, the bosses hurriedly said. Indeed, they were all famous people in Cloud City, but human drifting was famous in the entire parallel world. Speaking of which, he was much more influential than them. If an unknown player had become an insta-kill mage, the guild leaders of the various guilds would have their imaginations run wild. Now that they saw a big shot like drifting, at least half of the guilds present thought that they had no chance at all. The guild leader of the biggest guild in Cloud City, reigning the 4 seas, Unsworn Sword, was so excited that his face was glowing. In his eyes, they were the most competitive. Drifting was a veteran player, so he was familiar with the ways of the game. He easily mingled with the big shots in the hall. Of course, he couldn't take care of everyone, so many people were left out. Everyone was the leader of a guild, so they were all extremely arrogant. Now that they had no sense of existence, they were extremely unhappy. They also wanted to find something to do, but unfortunately, they had their eyes on the troublemaker Gu Fei. Silvermoon, who had jumped out to bite drifting, was looked down upon by the members of the child elite group. But in the eyes of the guild leaders who had come with him, they were united against a common enemy. After his plot failed, he immediately returned to obscurity and quietly observed the situation in the field. This time, he noticed that the presidents who had been ignored seemed to be so depressed that they wanted to kill someone. He felt that he had found another opportunity, so he hurriedly cleared his throat and brought up the old topic again. I say, Brother Adrift is the strongest sorcerer. Needless to say, strongest my ass. Strongest my ass. Yutian Shenming immediately interrupted. Little brother Yutian was also very powerful in the past. I know. Silvermoon hurriedly complimented Yutian Shenming. Then he didn't dare to say anything about drifting anymore. Instead, he directly pointed at Gu Fei. This friend is here to cause trouble. What is his intention? No matter how I look at it, he doesn't seem like he doesn't know you guys. Silvermoon didn't give up. Seeing that many guild leaders couldn't get a chance to interact with drifting, they would definitely be full of complaints about the 100 gold coins. Of course, since he couldn't say anything, Brother Yu and the others didn't need to take responsibility for this. The guild leaders weren't unreasonable people. However, the sudden appearance of Gu Fei in this meet and greet was really suspicious. At this moment, Silvermoon was fanning the flames. She wanted to find an outlet for these guild leaders who had grievances in their hearts to vent, so that the 100 gold coins they spent would be more worthwhile. Silvermoon's plot worked. There were always some guild leaders who didn't have good morals. After hearing Silvermoon's reminder, they immediately pointed their guns at Brother Yu and the others. They slammed the table and said, "That's right. We must give an explanation. What is going on? When that guy came in, he was talking to you guys. How can you say that you don't know him?" Brother Yu didn't know how to answer. Han family young master had a shameless look on his face. Does talking to him mean that you know him? You're talking to me now. Do you know who I am? The other party didn't know how to react. The smart Silvermoon realized that the guns she found weren't very useful. She had to help. Don't play this word game with us. Do you really think we're all stupid? Han family young master snorted disdainfully. He wouldn't admit it even if he was beaten to death. Silvermoon was happy that Han family young master didn't want to admit his mistake. If they continued like this, words couldn't solve the problem. Of course, they could only fight. This was what Silvermoon wanted to see. So she hurriedly continued to provoke. If we don't explain this clearly, we won't feel comfortable spending the 100 gold coins. The guild leaders who took out 100 gold coins, but didn't talk to drifting all nodded and stared at Han family young master, and the others fiercely. Gu Fei, who hadn't said a word, finally opened his mouth. I don't know what you're doing here. Didn't I tell you when I came in? I'm here to do a wanted mission. Really? Then who is the person you want? Silvermoon asked with a sneer. He knew about Gu Fei's background, and had been watching calmly from the sidelines. He had long since guessed what had happened from beginning to end, but in the end he still made a mistake. He tried to intensify the conflict to the point where it couldn't be mediated with words and then fight. He thought that the people on his side were all guild leaders, and the child elite group was definitely the weaker group. His main mission was to make the leaders feel that this matter couldn't be explained clearly, and they could only fight. He really didn't expect that in this kind of situation, the other party would make the first move. Gu Fei didn't like Silvermoon to begin with, and now that he was incessantly fanning the flames and sowing dissension between them, Gu Fei didn't even want to use words to mediate. He just wanted to take action. Silvermoon asked proudly, "Who is the person you want?" He looked like he had stepped on Gu Fei's tail. Gu Fei answered naturally, "You're the one on the wanted list." As he spoke, he stepped on a stool and leaped over a table. He swung his sword at Silvermoon's face. Double flame flash, flash! Gu Fei roared. Even the leaders who were busy talking with drifting looked up. They saw a black shadow hit Silvermoon's face. This sword strike from Gu Fei was very ruthless. Although Silvermoon wasn't killed instantly, and his head wasn't split in half, a straight sword mark was left on his face. Gu Fei looked at it and sighed. The bottom seems to be a bit crooked. My hand isn't steady enough. Sigh, the weight of this sword isn't very good. Silvermoon was very surprised. He pointed at Gu Fei and said, You a few times, but in the end he didn't say anything. He wanted to say, "How dare you make the first move?" but the person had already been killed. What was the point of saying that? This was the principle of a scholar meeting a soldier. Silvermoon was like a scholar, trying to use the art of language to provoke conflict, and then do something. In the end, he met a strong soldier like Gu Fei, and directly skipped to the last step of Silvermoon's plan. Relying on his good magic defense, Silvermoon still wasn't killed by Gu Fei. But at this time there were no messy statuses on his body. Under the double flame flash, his HP had turned red. Fortunately, he had two companions beside him. When Gu Fei jumped over, they reacted half a beat too late. Now they attacked, one on the left and one on the right, wanting to leave two marks on Gu Fei's face. Wanted mission. If there's nothing to worry about, dodge. Gu Fei dodged the two attacks as he pretended to shout. Of course, the two wouldn't be scared off by Gu Fei and protected Silvermoon behind them. But Silvermoon knew that this was useless, because Gu Fei had another terrible skill. Knowing how powerful Gu Fei was, Silvermoon knew that the three of them wouldn't be his match. He hurriedly retreated in the direction of the door, and continued to provoke. What are you doing? You won't let me speak. Do you want to kill me? Silvermoon only hoped that the bosses would quickly be provoked by him, so he wouldn't need to escape. Unfortunately, although his mouth was fast, there were too many words. And Gu Fei only wanted to say 5 words. Teleportation move. By the time Silvermoon finished this sentence, Gu Fei had already passed through the crowd and blocked in front of Silvermoon. Sword light, fire light. This was the 3rd time Silvermoon had been killed by Gu Fei. Mission complete. Gu Fei nodded with satisfaction. The tavern was quiet. Chapter 204. What did it mean to be completely silent? At this moment, Little Thunder Tavern was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Everyone was speechless as they stared at Gu Fei. Double Flame Flash was one of the least used spells for mages. Less usage meant less proficiency. In the hands of many mages, this skill had the least destructive power. Not only mages knew this, but most players also knew this. But now Gu Fei had killed a knight with the dual flame flash, which was the weakest move in everyone's impression. 2 double flame flashes had killed one person. The players already felt that this was a terrifying amount of magic damage. What they didn't know was that if it weren't for Silvermoon's high magic defense, normal players wouldn't have been able to withstand Gu Fei's double flame flash. The power of Gu Fei's double flame flash was much more terrifying than what they had just seen. But in the eyes of knowledgeable people, these 2 double flame flash were more surprising than Gu Fei's instant movement. Instant movement was nothing more than an ordinary skill. Now that there were people who could use it, they just happened to get a skill scroll. Although it wasn't easy, this skill didn't have terrifying destructive power, so it wasn't a big deal. But these 2 double flame flash proved that Gu Fei really was a mage with terrifying magic damage. Whether or not Gu Fei knew Brother Yu and the others, and whether he was really here for a bounty or to cause trouble, these questions weren't important at the moment. The guild leaders who didn't get a chance to talk to Drifting were already consciously trying to get close to Gu Fei. Drifting was indeed famous, but no one knew how powerful his magic was. Small and medium-sized guilds didn't dare to think too much about a big shot like him. Even if a big guild invited him, it was hard to predict the effect of such a famous person like him. He might even turn the tables on them. In comparison, the smart people were more willing to find a star with potential like Gu Fei and cultivate it themselves. Just as everyone was thinking about this, Gu Fei, who had dealt with Silvermoon, felt that there was nothing more for him to do here. He suddenly turned around and ran out of the tavern. Hey brother, wait up. Several guild leaders had already dashed out of the door. These were the ones who reacted quickly and didn't have any thoughts about Drifting. At the same time, there were also those who were slightly hesitant and thought about it before giving chase. But not long after, all the people who went out to chase him came back dejectedly. Who the hell is this person? Everyone was discussing spiritedly. I think his speed is very fast. I'm afraid his agility has increased quite a bit, someone said. I've appraised his equipment before. I can't see his clothes and sword. Everything else is quite ordinary. There must be something strange about his clothes and sword. His high magic damage is probably due to these two things. As the guild leader, he still had some experience and judgment. Wait, since he has high magic damage, how do you explain that flaming tree 1,000 layers flames just now? Someone raised a new doubt. In the blink of an eye, only a few people in Little Ray's bar were still trying to get close to drifting. Most people were discussing Gu Fei's problem. Han family young master quickly took the opportunity to send a private message to Brother Yu and the others. We can go now. Brother Yu completely agreed with this decision. Unscathed in battle, who was just by the door, slipped out smoothly. Yutian Shunming also didn't attract much attention. Before he left, he even spat in Drifting's direction, but no one noticed. However, when Han family young master and Brother Yu tried to slip away one after another, they immediately attracted many people's attention. Hey, you two, please wait. Someone shouted. Everyone turned to look at him. Han family young master smiled. We're done here. You guys can talk to Master Drifting. Wait. A few guild leaders jumped out and blocked their way. About that wizard just now, we wanted to ask you two about it. We don't know him, Han family young master said. Hey, don't treat us like kids. Do you really think we believe you guys don't know each other? The content of the discussion about Gu Fei was very detailed. It analyzed all the details of Gu Fei's actions from when he showed up in the bar to when he left. Obviously, Gu Fei's communication with Brother Yu and the others after he entered the bar was very obvious. Previously, everyone was focused on killing the magician, not Gu Fei. Therefore, it didn't matter if Gu Fei knew Brother Yu and the others. Therefore, no one really cared whether Han family young master was telling the truth or not. However, now that Gu Fei's strength was exposed and he was nowhere to be seen, those who paid attention to him naturally wouldn't let this go easily. The situation was getting out of control again. Brother Yu had a helpless smile on his face as he explained to the crowd with difficulty. Meanwhile, the young master of the Han family stood silently by the side, watching coldly. He noticed that while the group of guild leaders were anxiously trying to find out information about Gu Fei, there were two people among them who spoke sarcastically, pointing fingers at the young master of the Han family and the others. These two were Silvermoon's companions who had come with her. Han family young master cursed in his heart. Could it be that Silvermoon purposely lured Gu Fei to attack him and sacrificed herself in exchange for Gu Fei's strength to be exposed? Then, it naturally led to this scene. This scene was obviously what he wanted from the beginning. He didn't think that he would actually make it happen. This guy was really like a ghost that wouldn't go away. Han family young master always thought deeply of Silvermoon. This was true. This time was no exception. At the end of the day, Han family young master didn't fully understand Silvermoon's character. In order to achieve his goal, he wouldn't hesitate to sacrifice himself. Silvermoon was definitely not this kind of person, not even in the game. But other than that, Han family young master's judgment was completely accurate. Silvermoon's contribution to the current chaos couldn't go unnoticed. After reviving at the resurrection point, he was cursing Gu Fei's 18 generations of ancestors. Suddenly, he received a live broadcast of the situation from his two companions in Little Ray's bar. He immediately realized that his death was a lucky hit. Gu Fei's strength was exposed, causing the mini-bosses to shift their attention to Gu Fei and Brother Yu's group. This was another opportunity that couldn't be missed. This was something that he had sacrificed himself for. Silvermoon gritted his teeth and hurriedly instructed his two companions to spare no effort in sowing discord to the end. Remember, we're not trying to tempt them into revealing the situation with Qianli when he was drunk. Only when one side desperately wants to know and the other side refuses to say anything, can the conflict intensify. What you need to do is to emphasize some of Qianli's unreasonable behavior when he was drunk, as well as some of those guys' lies. The most successful scenario is to make those guild leaders feel that this is a designed scam. Silvermoon said. The two listened to Silvermoon's instructions and actively participated in the academic discussion at that time, fanning the flames and laying a lot of foreshadowing. Now that everyone was surrounding the Han family's young master and asking for information about Gu Fei, the two of them were acting just like what the Han family's young master had seen. They suddenly spoke some strange words to ignite the suspicions in everyone's hearts and gradually led the guild leaders to believe them. In the end, the group of guild leaders' request was for Gu Fei to immediately come back and meet with everyone to explain together. The more excessive their request, the better. It's best if it's something that Brother Yu and Han family young master can't do. Only then will the conflict become completely irreconcilable, and my death won't be in vain. This was Silvermoon's suggestion to Cece. Success. At this time, his companion excitedly reported to Silvermoon. They want Brother Yu to immediately call Qianli back when he's drunk and explain it to him face to face. I don't think they can do this. That's right, there seems to be some conflict between them. That Qianli is drunk. I'm afraid that he really came to cause trouble. He seems to have a lot of opinions about Brother Yu's money-making plan. I don't know what they're doing, but it's good that they can do this. Next, we can just watch the show. Silvermoon was proud. Her mood of being killed and dropping a level had improved a lot. What about the mage? Quickly call him back. Don't say nonsense like you don't know him. Who are you lying to? At this time, the group of guild leaders were pointing at Brother Yu and Han family young master, and they were almost forced into a corner. The statement of don't know him could not continue anymore. This was an unmistakable lie, and if they clenched their teeth and insisted on it, they would really be digging their own graves. And the request of calling the mage over was indeed something that Brother Yu and the others could not do, because the private chat with Gu Fei had not been opened yet. Brother Yu was at his wit's end, and he was so anxious that his forehead was full of sweat. And Han family young master, who was beside him, seemed to be too lazy to argue with so many people. Other than saying a few words to those who blocked the way when they were about to leave, he did not say a word after that. His eyes were flickering, and no one knew what he was thinking. Are you guys going to call him or not? Don't think that we don't know that the mage was supposed to be introduced to everyone by you guys. Unfortunately, you saw brother drifting, so you came to make a last-minute effort. What now? You want to hide that guy and find another time to earn some money, right? After all, there were too many loopholes in the temporary plan of Han family young master to drag drifting into trouble. In addition, Silvermoon, who knew more about the inside story, instigated and hinted behind the scenes. Many people present saw through this little trick. The development of the situation was a step forward as Silvermoon had expected. Everyone was going to think that this scene was a scam. If a person was cheated of 100 gold coins, perhaps he would just curse in his heart and be too lazy to make a big fuss about it. But at this time, all the people who were cheated of 100 gold coins gathered together. Everyone was connected, and they encouraged each other. It was very likely that they would form a temporary alliance to fight against the criminals. What should we do? Brother Yu saw that Han family young master did not speak, so he directly sent a private message to him. Don't worry, someone will stand up and say something. Han family young master was really not worried. Who? Brother Yu asked as he looked at the crowd. They are torturing Qianli's information. It is obvious that they want to poach him. Think about it, who are they going against? Han family young master replied to Brother Yu. Oh, Brother Yu suddenly understood. He turned his gaze and looked at a quiet place in the tavern. The girls who were reborn as amethyst were sitting there quietly. Chapter 205. Players who established guilds mostly aimed to dominate the world, while mercenary groups faced all kinds of quests and quest rewards. These two groups focused on power, while the other focused on profit. From this perspective, the competition between guilds was more like a competition between two countries, while mercenary groups were at most like a competition between two companies. No matter what level of competition, talent was a powerful resource that would never expire at any time. However, in comparison, guilds were more thirsty for such powerful talents. After all, their ultimate goal was different. Their goal was to rule the world for thousands of years, which was quite imposing. Therefore, the majority of the people who came to the Instakill Mage meet and greet were guild leaders. At this time, a bunch of guild leaders were glaring at Han family young master and Brother Yu to call Gu Fei over. It was obvious that they wanted to win over Gu Fei. It was common for guilds to poach each other, But at least they didn't do it in front of the guild leader. This was too arrogant, too unreasonable. Even if they succeeded in poaching him and he switched to a guild, it would mean that everything was exposed. However, from the beginning to the end, everyone would still put in enough effort on the surface. At this moment, a group of guild leaders openly expressed their intention to poach him, but they didn't know that Gu Fei already had a master, and that master was sitting right there. Han family young master kept silent and watched coldly, waiting for the main character to make a move. Just as he had expected, the girls could not restrain themselves from trying to poach him away in front of them. July and Lualua were slightly better, and were still discussing what to do with their heads lowered. However, Slenderwaist Dance and Fiercely had already flipped the table and jumped up. Hey, don't go too far. That mage is one of our guild members. If you want to poach him, do you think we don't exist? The scene quieted down. The guild leaders weren't Tsubasa Sakuratsuka. They wouldn't become quiet when they saw a few girls. The reason for the silence was as mentioned before. Poaching a member in front of the president was against the rules. All of the guild leaders present were fully aware of the unspoken rules of the guild talent battle. When they heard that Lord Gu Fei was present, they were at a loss as to what to do. Apart from that, everyone felt enlightened. How could a mere reincarnated amethyst defeat two major guilds, Wine Wen Song and Yunmu Guild? As for Singing Wine and Yunmu Guild, it seemed like they were looking for a certain sorcerer after losing to the reborn amethyst. There was a question, and now there was an answer. Their small guild was hiding such a powerful mage who could instantly kill mages. As for Jiu Dangu and the Yunmu Guild, after fighting with them, they found out about the existence of such a powerful figure, so they had been searching for him. It seemed like the reincarnated amethyst was telling the truth when she said that the mage was a member of her guild. The guild leaders were so embarrassed that they didn't know what to say. No one continued to pressure the Han family young master and Brother Yu. Brother Yu let out a long sigh and wiped the sweat off his forehead. Han family young master, on the other hand, was still staring at Silvermoon's two minions. He wanted to see what else they had up their sleeves. The two were reporting to Silvermoon about the change in the situation. Silvermoon, who was walking on the street, was slightly surprised when she heard the news. She only knew that Gu Fei was a member of the child elite group, but she didn't know that he was also a member of the reincarnated amethyst. Since there were people from his guild present, the other guild leaders would be too embarrassed to do such a thing. However, if that was the case, these people would be even more dissatisfied. If they were to intensify the situation, they would probably vent their anger on the child elite group. That's a good thing. Just as Silvermoon was about to write the news, he heard someone shouting, "Over here!" As Silvermoon wrote the message, he subconsciously turned around and glanced in that direction. An arrow was right in front of him, piercing Silvermoon's head on the spot. Silvermoon staggered from the arrow. He was shocked by the power and damage of the arrow. He looked up in the direction of the attack, and saw Zhan Wushang striding towards him. Behind him, Imperial Divine Cry had already knocked an arrow and drawn his bow again. Silvermoon staggered back. "You're pretty ruthless, kid." Unscathed in battle flipped his hands, and two greatswords appeared in his hands. Silvermoon knew that he was no match for him, so he turned around and tried to escape. Unscathed in battle was prepared for this. He charged towards Silvermoon. Even though warriors usually moved slowly, the speed of a charge skill wasn't slow. Unscathed in battle was a top-tier expert, so Silvermoon's escape was within his expectations. The timing of his charge was perfect. After the charge, the tip of his sword stabbed into Silvermoon's butt. With this boost, Silvermoon flew out with a whoosh. "Ah!" Yutian Shiming screamed for him. He couldn't bear to watch, but his eyes were filled with schadenfreude. By the time the scream stopped, Silvermoon had already flown out. With a smack, he smashed into the wall. "You did it on purpose!" Yutian Shiming shouted at Unscathed in battle as he ran over. Silvermoon fell from the wall. His head was a bit dizzy. This wasn't the effect of a charge skill. It was a real dizziness. Just as he shook his head to clear his head, his vision darkened. Unscathed in battle's tall figure blocked the warm sunlight of Cloud City. "What are you guys trying to do?" Silvermoon said. You brat playing tricks behind our backs. What do you think we're trying to do? Unscathed in battle said. Trample him. Trample him. Yutian Shenming happily shouted. Okay. Unscathed in battle replied. He reached out his hand and picked up Silvermoon. With a swing of his arm, smack! Silvermoon was once again smashed into the wall. The damage wasn't much, but the mental damage couldn't be described with numbers. But this wasn't the end. Yutian Shenming took the opportunity to shoot an arrow. It hit Silvermoon in the chest. Silvermoon didn't die. He slid down the wall. Yutian Shenming regretfully said. What a pity. If only he could be nailed to the wall. Ah. How about we tie him up and hang him on the clock tower? Unscathed in battle suggested. That's a good idea. Yutian Shenming couldn't stop praising. Then hurry up and go. Unscathed in battle said as he picked up Silvermoon again. Hurry up and go. Yutian Shenming said as he admired Silvermoon's expression. Silvermoon clenched his teeth and didn't make a sound. He waited for a while without saying anything. Hey you brat. Are you looking for someone to save you in the clock tower? Haha, actually we're just trying to trick you. Unscathed in battle said as he swung his arm. Silvermoon hit the wall for the third time. That's right. We don't have that much time to waste with you. Hey, are you dead yet? Yutian Shenming saw that Silvermoon didn't move. He picked up an arrow and poked his leg. A golden light flashed. Silvermoon, who was lying on the ground, suddenly pulled out his sword and slashed. However, he did not have Gu Fei's skills, lying on the ground and suddenly striking out with his sword. His movements were not very agile. Imperial Sky God Ming's reaction was not slow. He hurriedly dodged, but he was still shocked and broke out in cold sweat. That's despicable. Hurry up and kill him. Yutian Shenming took 2 steps back and said to Unscathed in battle. Unscathed in battle nodded. Yes, we have to be careful. As he said this, he walked forward and slashed down with both of his swords. Silvermoon raised his sword to block. Unscathed in battle switched to slashing left and right. He laughed and said, This is the benefit of a 2-handed weapon. Silvermoon was helpless. There was a wall behind him, and he couldn't retreat. There were swords on both sides. If he wanted to block, he could only block one side. Helplessly, Unscathed in battle slashed again. This guy's defense is really high. He's still not dead. Yutian Shenming was shocked. He also knocked an arrow and prepared to help Unscathed in battle. Under the combined attacks of the two, Silvermoon, who didn't have any combat skills, was completely defenseless. Moreover, under the watchful eyes of these 2 veterans, even if he had a skill, he might not be able to successfully use it. Silvermoon wanted to use the king's command on his sword to improve his skills, but he was interrupted by the 2. The other knights didn't have a chance to use their blessing skills either. In the end, he could only fall in depression. Yutian Shenming looked at the time and looked at Unscathed in battle. Sword Demon won't be impatient, right? Hurry and tell him. Unscathed in battle said as he sent a message to Sword Demon. Do you think he can do it alone? Yutian Shenming asked. No problem. Do you think everyone is Qianli? Unscathed in battle said. Fuck, why hasn't Qianli opened his message yet? Yutian Shenming cursed. Silvermoon is still lucky. If Qianli opened his message today, wouldn't he drop back to level 30? Unscathed in battle sighed. How's the tavern? Yutian Shenming muttered. Who knows? Gongzi said he doesn't need our help, so it should be fine. Unscathed in battle said. If those bosses all work together and kill Gongzi, how great would that be? Yutian Shenming's face was filled with longing. Unscathed in battle nodded and said, Brother, you don't die. He's the one who collected the money. Don't die and drop it all. Okay, let's go take a look, Yutian Shenming suggested. Let's go. The 2 figures, one big and one small, headed toward Small Thunder Tavern, leaving behind a trail of Silvermoon's footprints and the shocked gazes of the players who witnessed the scene. In Little Ray's bar, Silvermoon's 2 companions sent messages, but they didn't get a reply. The 2 of them could only use their own brains. Why else would Silvermoon be their boss? These 2 weren't as smart as Silvermoon. Silvermoon realized that with the presence of Gu Fei's guild leader, it would be easier to point the spear at the Han family young master and the others. The two of them, on the other hand, didn't analyze the problem as deeply. They simply felt that the presence of the reincarnated amethyst girl was a hindrance, so it would be better if they weren't there. One of the two immediately said, "If that's the case, the beauty should leave. Don't get in our way." These words were indescribably arrogant. The two of them felt that with so many guild leaders wanting to poach their people, what could a small guild like reincarnated amethyst do? When the Han family young master heard this, he snorted and said to Brother Yu, "You're really fucking retarded. Aren't you just looking for death?" As soon as he finished speaking, Slender Waist Dance went berserk. She shouted, "What did you say?" She used her swift drift style and charged in front of the person. She extended her hand and slashed the guy, ending his life. Chapter 206. Slender Waist Dance insta-killed one with one slash. Then, she didn't stop and quickly returned to her original position. Her advance and retreat were as fast as a ghost. The bosses present had never seen such speed before. They were so shocked that they were about to drool. Moreover, Slender Waist Dance didn't even use any skills. Such attack power was even more shocking. The bosses were all thinking, if Slender Waist Dance had pounced towards them, would they have had the ability to dodge? If they hadn't dodged, would they have been able to take that slash? Thinking about it, their faces turned pale. There was only one thought in their minds. Too fast. How could they have dodged it? Slender Waist Dance returned to her original position and angrily said, "Nonsense, don't you know the rules?" After saying that, she wiped her dagger as if she hadn't had enough. Her gaze swept across the bosses, as if she was looking for her next target. The surviving member of the Silvermoon trio didn't even dare to make a sound. How would he dare to try to sow discord between them again? But even if he didn't say anything, someone actually asked him to say it. Han family young master, who had been forced into a corner, had a face full of schadenfreude. He hooked his finger and pointed at him. "Brother, don't you have anything to say?" No, the surviving member hurriedly said. "It can't be? You seem to have a lot to say." Han family young master continued. The surviving member snuck a glance at Slender Waist Dance. He felt that Slender Waist Dance was also staring right at him. He was so scared that he broke out in cold sweat and kept on saying, "I don't have anything to say." This was what it meant to have a guilty conscience. If it was someone else, they wouldn't have been so nervous. His fearful expression added to the shadows in the boss's hearts. None of them dared to speak loudly. Han family young master held in his laughter. He was about to say something to give the bosses a way out of the situation and stop today's activities, when the door of the tavern suddenly opened and someone walked in. You still haven't left?" The person glanced around and said this. When the young master of the Han family saw who it was, he nearly spat out a mouthful of blood. Gufei. He appeared in the tavern at an extremely untimely time. If this went on, would there be an end to this? "What are you doing here?" Han family young master's face darkened. "Wanted mission. This time it really is a wanted mission," Gufei said. "Oh." All the bosses let out exclamations of realization, and all of their faces were filled with joy. If Gufei hadn't said that, they wouldn't have recognized him. Because Gufei came in with his face covered, no one knew what he looked like. This time he took off his mask, so no one thought it was him. Mages in black robes could be seen all over the streets. Even the priest's attire was black. The latest level 40 dark priest attire was completely black. On the other hand, it was hard to distinguish a mage from a priest if one didn't look closely. Was there a need to go through the trouble of identifying a random person's class? It was only when Gufei said the words "wanted mission" that the bosses immediately understood. When Gufei took out the Nightstreak sword from his pocket, everyone was even more certain. However, July's table was still staring at them. When Gufei suddenly appeared, the bosses' faces turned red and they couldn't think of a way to talk to him. However, Gufei took the initiative. He pulled out his sword and slowly walked forward. He was very arrogant before, but this time he seemed to be apologetic. He actually politely said to the bosses in front of him, "Excuse me, I have a mission." The bosses seemed to have woken up from a dream, and hurriedly moved to the side. Some of them even had an idea and came up to ask, "Who are you looking for? I can help you." The weight of these words was different. One had to know that everyone here was a boss. If two bosses directly confronted each other, then it would basically lead to a guild war. From this, it could be seen how much attention people paid to people like Gu Fei. In order to win his favor, they were even willing to fight with the other guilds. Once this fight started, the cause was very clear. No matter what, Gu Fei had to help. It went without saying which side he should help. As a result, Gu Fei couldn't help but be pulled onto the same side. No matter what, there would be many opportunities to take advantage of. This sounded very exaggerated and brainless, but in reality, it was a very intricate psychological attack. Unfortunately, this person didn't understand what Gu Fei was interested in. It wasn't easy to get a target to chop. How could Gu Fei be willing to give up so easily? After rejecting the help, Gu Fei pointed his sword at a certain person. "It's you. Everyone else move aside." Everyone present couldn't wait to please Gu Fei. So how could they possibly go against his wishes? They quickly made way for him. Gu Fei's goal was also to become the guild leader of a certain guild. At this moment, he wasn't in a good mood. The other side had already come to his door. No matter how much he wanted to curry favor, he wouldn't be so spineless as to extend his neck to be chopped off. At this moment, Gu Fei's attitude, as if there was no one else around, made him very unhappy. In the end, he's just a mage. I want to see how strong he is. This person thought to himself. He waved his hand and pulled out his longsword. This person was a warrior. From the perspective of a normal game, with such a distance and space, a mage could only be slaughtered by a warrior. Unfortunately, Gu Fei was an existence that defied common sense. The reason why Yi Xiaowu couldn't forget about Gu Fei was because Gu Fei was basically a contradiction in this game. A mage shouldn't be like this. If Gu Fei had chosen a warrior or a grandmaster of combat as a close combat class and used his kung fu, Yi Xiaowu probably wouldn't have paid this much attention to him. However, his class was a mage, and his kung fu was mainly close combat. As a result, he overturned the game's setting. This was actually the main reason why Yi Xiaowu thought that Gu Fei was the one who destroyed the game's balance. This time, the warrior leader knew that Gu Fei's dual flame flash was extremely powerful. At this moment, seeing him approach step by step, he guessed that Gu Fei was about to use this skill. In this case, he might as well make the first move. No matter how powerful his magic damage was, a mage's defense was still very weak. He would use attack as defense, so that he couldn't use his magic. Wouldn't that be the end of it? This guild leader's judgment was still quite good. When Gu Fei was already 2 meters away from him, he suddenly hooked his head and used charge. "Ah!" Some of the spectators exclaimed. They were subconsciously worried for Gu Fei. At the same time, they sighed in their hearts that this mage didn't seem to have enough battle experience. He actually walked directly towards the warrior, completely unguarded against the warrior's charge. Sigh. Just when everyone was worried for Gu Fei, he let out a soft sigh. When the warrior hooked his head, Gu Fei already knew what he was going to do. He even foresaw many of the following scenes. And everything that happened after was exactly the same as he predicted. Gu Fei moved sideways slightly, just brushing past the warrior's charge. Then, he chanted and slashed diagonally with his sword, chasing after the warrior's back. This was already the umpteenth time that Gu Fei had fought with the warrior. He didn't know how many times he had experienced this charge. He was very regretful that these players' fighting style was so formulaic. Everyone's tactics seemed to be carved out of the same mold. Of course, this led to Gu Fei's method of dealing with them was always the same. He would move sideways and then use returning goose descending peak. It was a tried and tested technique. Gu Fei was lonely. Lonely to be defeated. How he hoped that there would be a warrior who could dodge his sword. But he found that there wasn't a single one. At this time, the warrior's back was burning with flames as he completed the second half of his charge. It looked very cool. What was even more eye-catching was that the dual flame flash had a burning effect for a period of time. The warrior's charge was over, but the fire on his back hadn't been extinguished. It was as if he was wearing a red tie, but it floated behind him. This was a scene that even Gu Fei didn't see very often. This was because 80% of his opponents disappeared after being hit by the dual flame flash. There were very few who could endure the burning effect, as expected of the guild leader. So strong. Gu Fei praised in his heart. He took 2 steps forward and raised his arm, preparing to strike. Suddenly, a white light flashed and the warrior disappeared. Sword chi. Someone cried out in shock. Sword my ass. It's the burning effect of the dual flame flash. Someone immediately said with disdain. Gu Fei sheathed his sword. He didn't think that his opponent would be able to withstand the direct attack of the dual flame flash. In the end, he would fall to its additional effect. Mission complete, Gu Fei announced. He sheathed the dark streak sword and was about to activate the wind-chasing emblem's teleportation effect when he saw the Han family young master give him a meaningful glance. If you have something to say, then say it. I'm not the sword demon. I don't understand, Gu Fei said. Why the fuck did you open the message? The Han family young master wasn't in a good mood. Oh, I forgot. Gu Fei hurriedly opened the message and immediately received a message from the Han family young master. Take care of that person. Gu Fei raised his head and saw the Han family young master pointing at a certain person. Why? Gu Fei replied. To maintain peace. The Han family young master replied. Gu Fei looked towards the person who was suspected of breaking the peace. When that person's gaze met Gu Fei's, he immediately looked away. He was flustered and seemed to have a guilty conscience. At the same time, Gu Fei recognized that this person was one of the people who came with Silvermoon. He could guess what was going on. However, if he didn't say anything and just attacked in front of so many people, it wouldn't be good. No matter what, he had to find an excuse, right? Gu Fei suddenly teleported and appeared in front of that person. That person was shocked and subconsciously took 2 steps back. However, when his foot landed on the ground, he stepped on something. When that person lowered his head to look, Gu Fei had already said coldly, Big brother, you stepped on my foot. Gu Fei's leg had almost crossed a meter, and had unknowingly stepped on the other person's foot. Rather than saying that he had stepped on Gu Fei, it was more like Gu Fei had stepped on him. Just as Gu Fei was about to open his mouth to explain, he realized that he couldn't be bothered to waste his breath on this kind of person. After his foot was stepped on by the other party, he immediately drew his sword and killed him on the spot. You're tuning in to the Lime's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.